Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope everyone's having a good night so far. Got several special guests here tonight.
Is it time?
It is. We are live.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we got several guests here with us tonight.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
Yeah. Should be a good one. Yeah, gonna be a lot of fun. We are gonna start it off though with a fundraiser tonight. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and bring one of our guests on to kind of talk a little bit more about this, since he was the one that asked if we could share it on the platform.
What's up? Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Hey.
Good.
What's up, bro?
I'm super excited to be here, and obviously this first part is a sad subject. That we can maybe get out of the way first and foremost. But yeah, do you just want me to rap for a minute about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah? Okay, awesome. If you guys aren't familiar, Busy Balls. He, if you follow him on Facebook or Instagram, I followed him on Instagram, and he has had a daughter prematurely. I believe she was born at 24 weeks, who just the other day has passed away. She was 7 months old, made it through many obstacles, many hurdles, and unfortunately, God does what God does, right? That's the way I believe. Whatever you believe in, but that's the way I believe in. It's heartbreaking, and I think everybody at some point in life is touched by this subject. For me personally, my life, I wouldn't be here today without the loss of a child. My parents lost a kid at 7 months old. It led to my adoption, and so it's weird to be, somewhat unfortunately thankful, that this poor girl went back to heaven and gave me a better life. But it definitely touches me. It's a part of my heart. And so when I saw Busy Ball's post that he lost his 7-month-old daughter, we talked for a little bit through Instagram and through messaging, and it's just something no parent should have to go through. And I know those words are maybe spoken all the time, and all of us are hit up for GoFundMe's and things all the time, but to me, there's just no other worse pain, right? We all hear about cancers and a house getting burned down, or whatever that tragedy is. But to me, personally, I just can't imagine facing life, having a loss of a child, and then the burden of having to pay for it, right? Like whether it's medical bills, whether it's the funeral, like just the pain that you were already facing, and then somebody's handing you a bill for your daughter's funeral has to be just an unimaginary amount of pain. And so I know you guys, I think, will be able to share the link maybe to their GoFundMe. Is that true, right? I know nothing about YouTube stuff, so I don't want to sound stupid.
I'll be able to pop it up on the screen so everyone can see it. Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, like again, guys, I know that we all get hit up, but there's just no more importance than this one to me. Like to help take the financial burden away from a family, that has to put down a 7-month-old, put their baby girl in the ground, whatever you want to say. I'm sorry, it's just too heartbreaking for me. And so please donate, whatever it can. I don't care if it's $5. I don't care if it's $500. Whatever you can spare. It adds up in people. If it's 100 people, or if it's 50 people, or if it's 1,000 people, whatever they can give, it adds up. And I think if you can help take away, this part of that tragedy for them, the financial part, please do. There's a lot of people posting on Instagram. You can find this link and information, a lot of places. Again, it's Busy Balls. If you want to check out his Instagram and his post, check out this GoFundMe, and it talks about her short life. I guess I beg you. I beg you to give what you can. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Troy, for all of that. And yeah, it's just an unimaginable pain. As a parent myself, I couldn't imagine going through something like that. I've lost a brother at a very young age, so I know how that goes. But yeah, guys, if you don't mind donating straight to the GoFundMe, we don't want to have to take any fees out of this or anything for it coming kind of through our hands and then going to the GoFundMe page. If you donate, you want to send a screenshot to Reptile Revolution, we're more than happy to kind of give like a shout out there, or we would just like to know if you kind of heard about it through this channel, just so we know if these are kind of things we would like to continue to do in the future. I'd like to think that we're doing a lot of good, but just kind of to help on with that and see how things go from there. But so yeah, thanks guys. Anything that you can give. With that, I guess we'll kind of get into bringing everyone else on and start talking some ball pythons.
Yeah, man. That was sad.
Yeah.
John Day!
Hey, guys!
There we go.
All right, let's pep this
JSA!
up. Turn those frowns upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude.
All right.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. So we're just going to start off with
John.
here.
Yes.
MAGA, dude.
Maxka?
Make
Maxka.
Xanthic great again, dude.
Maxka.
Yes.
That's
Maxka.
right.
Oh,
Maxka! Perfect.
Yeah,
I loved that sticker.
Yeah,
Great
that
idea. Whoever came up with that. That was awesome. But yeah, we're just going to start off, guys, with, since we have 3 of you on tonight, instead of going through like a long, drawn-out introduction of how everyone started and stuff, we want you guys to give us your verbal resume.
Ooh.
All
Who
right?
has to go first? I think John Dagg goes first.
All right, John.
All right, sure. So my verbal resume was, unlike probably these guys, I was absolutely terrified of snakes growing up, and I wanted to conquer my fears. So a buddy of mine drugged me to a pet store where I held my first ball python, shaking, super scared, and the pet shop was like, "We're going to give you a deal if you buy 3 of them." And my buddy wanted 2, so I ended up home with the 3rd, and this is 2003. And from there, I would say I spent the next, 17 years plus trying to better understand ball pythons, working with them, learning from people like the people on this chat, all that fun stuff, and the greats in the industry, et cetera, and just watching the industry grow and change. And I'll say developing my own little niche that wasn't super popular back then of Xanthicism, and stuck it out and created a lot of cool things that I think a lot of people like nowadays. And so, yeah, now a thriving business, not just a hobby, and doing it on top of a small family, as well as on top of a day job, on top of COVID and all the other life responsibilities that get in the way of enjoying your free time. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, real quick question before we move on to Joe and Sheena. Was your first ball python an Xanthic then, or did you decide that later on?
My second. Yep. The
All
first one
right.
from the pet shop. I mean, Xanthics weren't in pet shops in 03.
True.
I got my first Xanthic directly from Snake Keeper for $3,500 for a female Xanthic in 2003, and had it shipped to my house, and had no idea what I was getting into. And then it went from there.
Here we are, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And Maxka.
Maxka.
What's up, Joe? What's up, Joe? You next, brother? Yeah, let me hear your verbal resume.
Been in reptiles my whole life. Grew up in the country, like a lot of people, just catching snakes, frogs, turtles. Really hit when we got to go to Florida and got to hold baby alligators, and that's what really clicked in for me. Where then I knew it was something for life. kind of had just always had some sort of reptile growing up. And then because we grew up in a real small town, and then once we actually moved to Minneapolis and actually started to go into real pet stores and find all kinds of different reptiles, then, you know, we basically built a small collection of just ones and twos of different oddball things. And I think it was right around 2008, 2009. We finally decided that we were going to kind of get into breeding ourselves. And we bought 4 ball pythons from Mark Petros. It was lesser, spider, a Mojave. What was the other one?
Pastel.
And a pastel. Yeah, it was 4 of them. That was 2009, and that was $1,400. So it was actually really cheap, you know, for a great investment. And it just, you know, it was pretty funny now doing it for this long, where everybody follows the same thing, where it's, we're just going to buy babies. We don't want to breed yet. You know, we're just going to go slow. We're not going to do anything. And I think it was like the next year we started buying adults and started breeding, and just the snowball started rolling, you know. Right around 2010, 2011, kind of Sheena and I would go to Tinley, but we had the whole family would go down to Rockford, Illinois, and we would drop them off at family, and then we would go hang out at Tinley. So then John and Michelle started asking questions. I started explaining everything. So then the next year we took them to Tinley, and they basically, after seeing that, they wanted in. So then it became more of a family business, and it's been growing ever since.
Very cool.
Damn.
All right, Sheena, how about you?
That's because
Were you
everyone in the
always
snake
reptile
industry
crazed, or was it? Did it come with the territory?
I'm an animal lover, so it wouldn't have mattered what it was. He was more into the reptiles, so that's where I landed. It was pretty. It wouldn't have mattered, but yeah, reptiles are cool, and I just follow along. Doesn't matter what it is, I'll clean it. It's all right.
Yeah, there you go.
Hell yeah, that's a keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
All right,
What's up, Troy?
Yeah, you know, verbal resume. As a child, I killed snakes for money. That's probably a tip. None of you guys knew this. My neighbors all hated snakes, and so we had a lot of garter snakes, and I would take hedge clippers, and when they came out from underneath the steps, I would cut their heads off, right? So that's my first encounter with snakes. And I loved animals. Like, that sounds weird. But like back then I thought snakes were, you know, like the enemy, right? I was one of those people. And so as I grew up as a child, my parents didn't let us have pets, me and my brother. You know, and so when I turned 18, 19 right in there, I had just met Lisa. I was somewhat living on my own or close to, and we bought like 3 or 4 iguanas from Earl May. And we went to Mark and Allie, who own Animal Plastics. But at that time, they had a pet store called Doc's Animal Stop. And then it turned into Animal Link. And then they turned into Animal Plastics. And in that time frame, like, we got to know them pretty well. And we bought some snakes. We ended up with like a Burmese python. We ended up with my all-time favorite lizard, which is an Australian water dragon. And just some really cool stuff. They became really close to us. And one time, at one point, me and Lisa, I think, laying in bed or something, she said something to the effect of like having a pet store. And like the very next day, I ended up finding a place that said for rent, and I stopped in. It was super cheap. I signed like a lease. I came home with keys, told Lisa that we had a pet store, and boom, right? And so we had the pet store for about 3 or 4 years. And then Michael was born. And when Michael was born, you know, we were still pretty young. You know, we were in our early 20s. And my parents have always been those people that, you know, driven in the fact that you should work for somebody and have health insurance and, you know, all these, you know, safety nets in life. And so we sold everything we had in the pet store, kind of got out of it, ended up back into leopard geckos. Kind of traveled around a little bit, started to do the Iowa show. I had already knew who like Joe and Sheena and John and Michelle and John and Tiffany were, but we didn't really know each other. Got to know those guys, you know, being at the Iowa show and seeing them at like Tinley and things like that. And got out of the leopard geckos and told Lisa one time that at a Des Moines show, I was like, hey, I just want like a couple ball pythons. Like, I don't want a lot. I just want a couple snakes to have a couple. And she said right then and there, it'll never stop. Like, it'll never stop at a couple. And sure enough, it went from like, I bought a 1.2 from Jimmy at Southwest Reptiles. And man, it went from those 3 snakes to, you know, these 250 or whatever. And so that's my story.
Lisa, has he always been that spontaneous, you know, for you, that he brings you just random gifts like that?
Is spontaneous the word we're going to go with here?
That today it is. Yeah, today.
All right.
Yeah. So I have a question for Liz and Brandon. If you could trade us 3, right? These 3 people, these 3 groups of people for Billy, Ozzy, and Justin, would you do it right now?
Wait, can we do Murder F Mary after that?
Ooh, I like that.
No.
No.
Wait. So you guys are aware, you can say fuck.
Okay. Wasn't sure.
Well, you can. The rest of us are good people.
Yeah, I have this marked as not children content,
yeah,
so we're
we're
good.
there.
Yeah, it is not.
All right.
We're not family friendly.
Yeah.
You knew Sheena was going to be on.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, I
being
mean,
in
That's
order.
right.
we just once you get her going,
Yeah, look out.
yeah.
It gets, yeah. You gotta know
No,
how
Joy,
bad
that's
I am,
funny
so.
that you
Fuck it,
say
man.
that because I kind of did a very similar thing to Kyle when we started all this. I was a computer programmer. I was working full time at a huge company in the area, and I just quit my job one day, like very randomly. I cut our income in like more than a half, and I didn't tell Kyle that I quit. So like I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I was laying, and he worked 3rd shifts at the time, and so I was like laying in bed one day, and he happened to come home, and he like woke up when his alarm went off. He's like, Liz, you slept through your alarm, you're waiting for work. And I was like, oh no, I quit.
What?
And he was like, well, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna do the same thing full time. Like that was how this started. Yep. And I still had a couple. I did horse training on the side for a while, but now I'm doing this full time. But I just think it's funny. I'm glad I'm not the only person that's just like really randomly spontaneous, where I just make my mind up on something and I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I don't even, you know. We wanted to do this, so here we go.
Like, we didn't even have like the funds for it. Like, I'm 100% honest. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember coming home and telling Lisa, and then calling Mark and Allie and being like, hey, I need to get in touch with like Wilson Pet in Minnesota. All I had was like a $5,000 credit card. We bought our shelving, like all of our first, you know, aquariums, and like all this set up for this little store off of this pretty much one credit card. And then we really had overnight success. Like, we did it went really well for about the 3.5 years we ran. It went well. I wish I would have known what I know now then, because I think, you know, maybe we'd still be doing it, but it came with its fair share of troubles. But I'm glad it led me to this.
No, yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. But yeah, I'm not the only one. I was excited to hear that because we were kind of in the same boat. Like, I think we had maybe like 20 or 30 females, you know, nothing like crazy. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make my whole living off of these 20 judges, you know, for the year. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, right.
I'm reading like House of Lessers. It's awesome. But yeah, so
Lisa and I we'd be a little better off, but this company called JSA, they sell us rats like a couple times a month, and it is, me and Lisa don't get to eat for like a week because these people take all of our money, and they don't even feel bad about it. They just push us right out the door.
Well, that's why we feed you when you come up here.
yeah. Oh.
It's true, they do.
So
They
you
always take care
feed
of-
them rats.
No, those are
Yeah, they don't ever tell us what's in this pizza.
we take them through
Yeah.
McDonald's.
McDonald's, yeah. You can only order off the dollar menu. You can only get one burger. No.
Split a Happy Meal.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. Happy Meals are expensive. Screw that. I'm not paying $4 for the toy. Like, I'll buy you a toy. Like,
Yeah,
no.
I just bought like I bought 6 Happy Meals just to get the Pikachu Pokemon card. That cost me like $30. It was bullshit,
But
dude.
you got the card.
Goddamn right, dude. And if I didn't, I would have bought another 6.
Yeah.
Fucking care.
There's a
What do you
Me too,
guys
there's like a-
think about that comment down there?
seems like a business for people to dive deep in and be 100% or failure will occur. I think in any business, man, that you're in, either 100% or failure is going to occur. We own a photography studio, so we obviously see 2 different industries. We travel a lot to photography shows. We have I would say, a large network in both, reptile world and the photography world. To me, like, I mean, I think the comment is true. You either put everything you can into any business. I don't care if you're selling burgers or whatever, or selling snakes. Like, if you don't put your all into it, failure is around the corner. What I'm gonna add to that comment is, if you're scared of failing, you'll fail. I think if you got to go into this mindset knowing that failure is an option and that it may happen, but if it scares you, you're not going to have an easy journey. I am not scared to fail. So,
well, and I'll add to that, because this is a good dialogue, right? Like, being in 100% doesn't mean working 80 hours a week on it. Being in it 100% is treating it like a business. Because if you treat a business like a business and think of it tactfully, it will then return to you as a business. If you think of it like a hobby, that it will be a hobby. And I think that's what it really, I certainly am one that I don't have time to spend 80 or 100 hours a week doing animals, stuff like that, with a day job and a family. But at the same time, I treat it like a business as well as a hobby. That's the beauty in what we do, is it's both a passion of love, but it's also something that we treat as a business venture and pay that attention to.
very true.
What about you, Joe?
And I think I was cut people off, Lisa. I was just gonna say, like, I think all of us, we all have a full-time job, of some sort, and at the same time, I think, myself, JSA, and Dag, we do this as a business, and I think all of us are on some type of brink of, at some point, do we go full time with this? Do we not? Whatever. But to add to John's, like, that's the thing, is like finding that balance. I think a lot of people, that's probably a big problem for me, is finding the balance, and so it works well on our end. Me and Lisa take our different duties. And for John Dag, our son helps clean at John's house, which is kind of funny.
I pay him and he pays them for rodents. So I pay his son. Son goes home and they go get rodents, and then everybody gets fed.
Yeah, it works out. So
JSA win everything. That's what it comes down to. They receive everything.
JSA's got it figured out, man. They're like, we get it all.
They're the top of the empire.
That was the biggest part for us when the rest of the family got in. My brother looked at it, realized the potential, and we all kind of sat down and had a meeting and realized that for us to get to a bigger size, that you needed the rodents. And then my brother's always said that, we're all here talking ball pythons, and there's a huge part of the market that doesn't like ball pythons. But everybody has reptiles of some sort that eat rodents. So now they can potentially be a customer of ours. So that was more of a business decision for us to try to do both, kind of get the rodents to a certain size to where now we feed our collection thanks to Troy.
Hey, Joe, out of curiosity, like, when you guys started to get into the lights, do you think that was like another, pun intended, light bulb for John in terms of driving some passion around more input into the business?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And he's a machinist.
Yeah.
So that all came apart where we had a generic idea. And then I think it was one of the first times that John came up to the Minnesota show, and he had his own idea, which was really similar to both of ours. So we all kind of brainstormed. With my brother being a machinist, I called him one night at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in Menards, and said, "Hey, let's put this all together, because we'd go to the shows and you'd see the other guys vending, and they'd all have PVC pipe and trying to put it together, and it'd be, you know, 8 feet in the air, and it just looked terrible. Never worked, you know, and it was just hard to take down. And so then once we started coming up with the light idea, and then that was it's a whole nother avenue to the business, because we were still really small at the time, and honestly thought that who's going to buy lights or who's going to do that from us. But then as we started vending Tinley, and the other bigger breeders, more well-known, started buying the lights, and then it just took off. But that was another side of the business to get us more into the industry and get people to know us.
Yep.
So you expanded away from the snakes slightly, looking at other avenues to ultimately come back and make the snakes and the business more successful as a whole to avoid failure, is what you did.
Yeah, it's kind of the don't want to put all your eggs in one basket type thing, you know, and then just branch out. And it just seems like every year there's more and more opportunities as the reptile industry gets bigger. You know, there's all kinds of stuff out there that somebody just needs to make the better mousetrap. You know, somebody's just got to come up with it. And it just seems like there's so many avenues with all the different caging, you know, the thermostats. I mean, everything can be improved. You know, and now with everybody, you know, with the apps on your phone, you know, we all love having to basically touch our phone, see what our temperatures are, you know what I mean, to have kind of that security to know what's going on with our collection, where our temperatures are at. There's a lot of avenues out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Agreed. Very untapped.
And I agree with the rodents. We actually just started our own rodent business, I guess you could say, here in the past about, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 months. And I mean, it's amazing. You can't keep rodents in stock.
No.
I mean, there's such a high demand.
Yeah,
it's insane. Yeah. And we're running right now about 1,000 breeder females.
Yep.
And can't keep rodent, you know, and just can't keep them in stock, you know. But I will tell people that are always asking about getting it, it's more work.
Yes.
Than the snakes.
Oh, yeah.
We spend so much more time in the rodent building and rodent facility than we do in our own snake room. Like, it's taken away all of my, like, oh, I have a night that I can just come down here and kind of relax and just, you know, mess around and not really have anything specifically set. No, I mean, we have such a schedule now to make sure that everything gets done that it's crazy, which isn't a bad thing, right? But definitely is a lot of work. And we had rodents previous to this, but just enough to feed our collection and supply like a couple local small breeders. But we decided to expand, and yeah, it's awesome, but it's a lot of work.
That's why I was extremely lucky that my family is probably a little nuts, because it's crazy on a few days a week. My brother, sister-in-law, niece, nephew, my mother, they're cleaning rats and mice.
Yep.
You know, it's a whole family thing. You know, Sheena and I and Michelle are in cleaning the snakes, and then when one of us is done, then, you know, Michelle will jump over to the rodents, or we just jump in where you're needed. But it's crazy to think it was always me with the reptiles, but to have the family jump in to clean snakes and rats. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, we just got done hiring a few kind of employees over at the rat building. They're actually friends of ours, but that have been buying rodents off of us. So I was like, well, hey, why don't you just start working off your rodents instead of buying them, kind of deal.
I did the same shit.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing now. But, you know, we go down Thursday from like 4 to 8, and we're there Sunday mornings we get there at 6, everyone else gets there at 7, and then we're there till about noon. So it's definitely, and, you know, we're down there every night just checking on stuff and everything. So it's definitely a lot of work. Helps to have a few extra hands around for sure. But let's see, Jesse, what she says here. I was thinking
market saturation
for feeders or snakes.
Assuming ball pythons, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So you guys are aware the reason why I'm plugging this dude's con so hard. Jesse just bought snake from Hardwired Exotics, and then hit me up today, and then bought a snake from me today. And I just spent like an hour on the phone with him, and he wants to get into breeding. So I just spinning it up quick. I told him to come check out this YouTube session, and there would be a lot of good info.
Yeah, the market was dying and crashing when we got in. You know, I mean, it's
been dying for 20 years.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I mean, you might not be able to go out there and somebody's not going to buy a $50,000 banana anymore, but you know, it's all in your marketing and just stuff like this, just developing a relationship with the people around you and doing your shows and putting your time in. The snakes will sell themselves eventually, but the people got to trust who they're buying from.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the industry has just changed a lot, right? Like I know I was watching a live a few weeks back with like Brian Parchek. He's like, I bought the first pinstripe for $125,000, I think, or something ridiculous like that. You know, he's like, I took it, and you know, back then it was take what you can and make a bunch of them, right? That was kind of how the market went.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of the market is crashing has come from, because it's not crashing, it's just different. It's moved to, you know, quality animals and projects that take long long periods of time to develop, right? You're not seeing every year necessarily like the next big thing for that particular project, right? Or it's not about mass producing the same codom or making more of the same thing, right? You know, of just putting a clown to a clown and making more clowns, or an albino to albino and making more albinos. It's about getting all these different combinations in. So I could see where, you know, when the industry started, how people would say that it was crashing, right? Because they weren't able to sell these animals for outrageous amounts of money. But I think it's with any business, you got to learn the curve, right? Of where the industry is going and how it's changing. If you just keep doing the same thing, eventually the industry is going to get ahead of you.
Right.
Right. And then there's going to be no catching up. And that's with any business.
Yeah.
Yep. 1,000%.
Yep. And that's where failure comes in. You know, we talked about failure earlier. I personally love failure. It's my favorite thing. I like going to the gym. I like hitting muscle failure, right? Because that's where growth happens. What the guys like who work for me, I tell them fail is an acronym. It means first attempt in learning. Everyone is going to fail. Everyone's going to fuck up sometimes, right? It's not quitting, getting over that, and never making that mistake again. If you quit, then you go from failing to being a failure, right? Failing is where I'm
Sounds
weak,
like that needs to be on a t-shirt.
where I can reinforce that weakness. You know?
Me too. I can
almost bust out of a large. When I can bust out of the, I'll put it right here.
I love it.
Ahead,
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, man. You know, about the fail acronym. I think that's great. And I think that, you know, my point would have been is you don't necessarily fail. You know, I think fail and then maybe the definition of insanity, right? Like keep doing the same thing and you get the same result, right? That's where people, I think, fail. So I think if you get to a point where you're not selling snakes or you're not breeding, whatever you think your failure is, change something, right? Like that's the thing is the growth part of it and changing to get a different result. And so and I think we went through that. I think whether you look at you know, for the longest time we were heavy in G-stripe and I thought it was the best thing on the planet, but I kept going to these shows and I couldn't sell it. Everywhere I turned, it seemed hard to sell it, you know, and then I think there was a learning lesson for me. Like I got out of it and now it's something I wish I had back because I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't marketing correctly or I wasn't presenting myself correctly and whatnot. So I think that's the biggest point for me is change something so that you get a different result.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on it too as one of my like pieces of advice I always give to people that ask about breeding is, well, don't start your first breeding with your $2,000 male you got over here and your $5,000 female you got over here, and then wait 3 years, raise them up, and be like, "There's my first breeding." Don't do that, go out and get yourself an adult female normal if you have to, and a pastel male or something, and start breeding those animals. Start understanding about the market, how to sell them, how to market yourself, how to get your name out there, how to take care of them, what a ovulation looks like, a build, how pairing works.
Yeah.
Years of doing that builds you up way more than any book you can read or any person you can ask questions. It's just the experience that'll get you there.
There's no substitute for experience, right? You can buy the most expensive snakes that are all breeding size and throw them all together. But at the end of the day, if I don't know who you are and you're asking $5, $6, $7 grand for this animal, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, right? That's like, who is this person? I've never heard of them. Now they're claiming to have all of these, powerhouse animals, right?
Right.
And you never know. You might get it, right? You might get lucky and they might pair, and you might get the girl during your season and she might lay, and then you throw those eggs in the incubator and they all mold or they don't make it.
What did I do wrong?
You don't have that experience, right?
Yep.
How long do you think we'd have to sit here in silence if we wanted to wait for Lisa and Sheena to have a conversation?
3 days.
If I wanted to have a conversation with Sheena, I'd just call her.
Yeah.
They're probably texting back and forth right now.
Yeah, they're probably. They're over here like texting like, this is stupid. Why are we here? No.
Yeah.
These guys.
This is a tough one. This is I
All
love
right,
Liz,
so-
this is okay.
So
Yeah.
Liz, I got to give you a shout out though. When you guys started this channel, I told Sheena, I said, you are in trouble. I said, did you see what Liz and Brandon are doing? They're starting up a YouTube channel. I said, who is she going to come after? She's like, oh no, absolutely not 100%. So she just looked at me the other day and she goes, oh my God.
Yep.
Yes.
Not my wheelhouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
somehow
I knew we were gonna get all of you guys on at some point. Yeah. So there's the story, right? I messaged Sheena. I'm like, I want you and Joe to come on the channel, and she goes, only if you can get Lisa on. So I'll tell you what.
Moral support.
If Lisa will come on, I'll come on. So I messaged Troy. I'm like, Troy, I gotta call in a favor, and it's about Lisa.
I open it up and I read it and I look at Lisa and I'm like I know this isn't gonna go well. I think I even said something like, be open-minded.
Yes. And then I tell Sheena, right, that Troy said, okay, Lisa's on. And Sheena's like, no, I want confirmation from Lisa that this is happening.
I kind of figured she was using me to not be on it.
Yeah. You were right.
Because she knew that I would say no.
Yep. Well, here we are. I got everyone on. So thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Sheena, as well, for coming on. We appreciate having you guys here.
You just owe me later. It's fine.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I know you guys all have lives, so thank you for your time, period. I do appreciate
And
it.
this
you're
was
very welcome.
What's up,
very
Julius?
last minute. And this was very last minute, so
Yeah,
thank you guys for being super
Yeah, it
flexible
was.
as well.
All right, we just shuffled some schedules around. And
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. All right. So
Hell
to get a
yeah.
little bit back on track, we've
All
actually
right.
kind of been talking about this a little bit. So I had a question for you guys, and
Little
we'll
bit.
go through again. If you could go back and change how you started your collection, right, everyone, would you? And if so, how and why?
You want to go first, John, or me?
I just have one particular example because obviously I'm going to still get Xanthics. I mean, there's nothing I'm going to do differently. I would give two particular. No, I'm going to give three or four particular examples of things I did with my collection that I learned from. So a couple of those was early on. Believe it or not, JD Constriction tried to do everything. Just like everybody else. Like I got Xanthics, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make pieds, and oh, I'm going to make this over here. And so I bought into things and then literally turned around and sold them before I bred them to anything because I was like, what am I doing? I can't do 50 different genes. I need to pick something and develop it. That's where I'm going to spend my time. So that was one lesson learned that I changed from my collection. And the other is I find it almost comical is both Spot Nose and Enchi I brought in to put with Xanthic early on and went, I just don't really think those will turn into anything that I really want to make. And then where am I at today? Yeah, absolutely have Enchi and Spot Nose and stuff because I went, that was dumb. I should have done that years ago. Bring that stuff back. How do I get back into it? And that's okay, right? You can make those kinds back to your fails and mistakes. You can make those kinds of mistakes and bring things back to the collection. Spot Nose and Enchi were two big ones that were, this isn't going to work out. I've only seen like one Spot Nose Xanthic. I don't see the Spot Nose combos that are really cool. And then you think about me saying that today, and you're like, are you kidding? Have you not seen everything that has Spot Nose in it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Enchi too is super popular gene. So yeah, lesson learned.
Yeah, and I think like I'm the same as Dag. You know, I think there's things that I had and I sold that I shouldn't have, and there's probably some things that I'm glad that I sold. What I will say is I wouldn't change much, and the reason being is I think my path has led me to where I'm at, and I'm happy with that. I'm not unhappy. This is a tough one. I think all of us are a little bit unhappy with our collection. We all kind of pick on our own collections because we all have, I think, collection envy of somebody else. But if you take that out, if you push that envy away or jealousy, you know, and really look at your collection, like I'm happy with what I have, and I wouldn't have it without those trials and errors and failures of buying and selling genes. I wouldn't have got to where I'm at. And so I don't think I would change much.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that we did, but of course, you know, then it comes into funding, you know, the amount of money that you're able to spend when you start, and of course it's different for everybody, was just buying more recessive females, you know, getting them on the shelf and starting there, you know, versus like everybody does, you buy too many males and then you're like, oh, now what do I do?
Yep.
So, I mean, we did pretty good overall. Our biggest thing was we didn't go out and max out a credit card. We didn't take out a ton of money. Sheena and I made this really small initial investment. And from basically that point on, the majority of the money that was invested was company or sales. So we didn't, you know, it took us a long time to get to this point, you know, and it was a lot of hard work. So I think we obviously made mistakes along the way, but like Troy said, it's a necessary means to the madness. You know, we wouldn't be here without making those mistakes.
And at the same time, we got really
I like
lucky.
that a
So
lot.
we got to work with some really good, understanding people.
Yep.
We had some good mentors along the way, and I think we got really lucky. And I think we try to pay that forward as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say I continue to get lucky when it comes to mentors. Like I absolutely love JSA and John. They all hear from me a lot. Joe especially. He takes a phone call from me daily. And I'm usually complaining about something, or I'm lost, or I just need like his encouragement. And so there's so much truth to that. I don't really care if you're at this point where you're doing shows and things like that. It's not so much about the sales and the dollars and things like that. It's really about the community and how much, you know, I don't call them snake friends. They're my friends, right? Everybody on here is a friend of mine. I may tell the story of how we met and it's snake related, but I don't categorize people that way. But my thankfulness of it is that selling snakes has led me to these relationships. And through those relationships has made my snake collection better because we all help each other out. And so I think that's a big thing, is finding your spot in a community of a group of people that are going to build you up. You see this all the time. If it says you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. If you hang around with 5 junkies, you'll be the 6th, right? Yep. And so I think my circle, including everybody on here, Liz and V2, you guys too, and it goes further than this. You guys know that. My Instagram circle of friends and whatever you want to say, all of us build each other up, and it's amazing, and it makes my collection better. It makes my sales better. It makes me feel better. So I'm certainly thankful for that aspect.
Yeah. I think what you had to say too, Troy, going back a little bit, I think like the collection envy, if you want to call it, right? I feel like all of us, we know our holes, if you want to call them, right, in our collection. So we all know, like, oh man, I wish I had more than that, or I wish I had this, or I wish, you know. But if you see someone else's collection from the outside, right, it's like, wow, like that's so awesome. You got, you know, you have all this stuff, and I think it's cool, you know, to have people reiterate that too, right? Because I know, you know, we're fairly new in this. This is only our 6th season, and I kind of remember that happening, like probably about a year ago, when someone was like, you know, your collection's so awesome. You have all, you know, you've got this and you've got that. It was just like, oh yeah, you know, I guess my collection is pretty cool. You know, I never really think of it that way. So I think it's easy to always get ahead of yourself on, you know, I want this or I wish I had that. But I think it's always good to remember to take a step back and kind of remember what you started out with, right? And how far you've come in that short period of time, and you know, your experiences do make your collection better, right? Like John, now you know Inchy and Spot Nose, right?
That's right.
Gotta get those in there. But the nice thing is, right, is because you work with such a niche market with the Xanthic, is you also have all these visual Xanthic combos that no one else has, right? And you've got quite a few of them. So it'd be pretty simple for you to get something with Spot Nose or Inchy or both in the same snake and just start plugging it in, and you'll still be probably ahead of that in the Xanthic game, you know? So there's always ways to kind of turn it to be a bright, you know, there's a bright side and a dark side to everything. So
yeah, there's always a recovery plan.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always a way to recover.
Yeah.
Turn the wish you had into goals.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes another step.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of the instant gratification, you know, we all need to realize that it just might take us a year or two, whatever, but you can make it. You can get there at some point.
And who knows, if you would have stuck with the Inchy and Spot Nose, maybe you wouldn't have worked through something else.
Right.
I mean, I know, like the Stormtrooper, right? It's like a big thing. Like, who knows? Maybe that animal wouldn't exist if you would have decided to go in a different direction and take those animals to something else. So
that's right. It's all part of our path. Yeah.
Yeah, right. We all know this is going to happen as breeders. I mean, we just know that these things are going to fall right into place.
Part of the plan. Part of the breeding plan.
Wait, what's a Stormtrooper?
I have no idea, but I was thinking, since we're talking about holes, Troy, do you think you know Lisa's holes better, or she knows your holes better?
I think
we all know Troy's holes better.
Yeah, I think we know a lot of Troy's holes, and mostly it's because Lisa tells us.
Very open about it.
I don't have anything to say.
Right.
You gotta come back for that.
We've all spent a lot of time together. So.
That was a good one.
All right. Okay, so then what is, Troy, I'll give you something to say. What is the most developmental piece of advice you would give a brand new breeder?
Why did you sign?
She's still thinking about your holes.
Yeah.
I'm sure glad you gave me the tough question. The most developmental. Man, I don't know. So much comes to mind. You know, looking back at maybe some of the things that I did wrong when it came to. I think there's a balance between infrastructure, like as far as your caging and or whatever you want to call that, your racks, supply, whatever, versus putting all my dollars into trying to buy the next best thing. So I think I would tell people to slow down. I wish I didn't had to pour tens and twenties of thousands of dollars into racks and stuff so late in the game, then maybe getting it a little slower throughout the process. So it's not about buying the next best thing. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. I think you have the best piece of advice I think I can give you is to just slow down and do the process the best way possible with the dollars you have available. Don't think you have to, follow your neighbor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense.
I think that's solid.
Grow
That's awesome.
organically and at your own pace.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe? You got something for that one?
I guess our biggest thing was everything was still crazy expensive. So kind of maybe a little bit opposite of what the way Troy was saying is we built a lot of our own racks and kind of move forward that direction. I think trying to think what the first time we had a shot at like an ultrasound was insanely expensive. So I couldn't justify spending that money because we didn't have enough females, so I wanted something to invest in more animals. But we also did take the time to learn what the animals were doing, so you could tell where they were sitting, if they're wrapping the dish, what they were doing, starting to swell. Ralph Davis was huge with his whole YouTube videos and showing you how to do stuff. And, that's where I guess I learned how to palpate. Yep. And that was huge for me to not have to rely on an ultrasound. Troy and Lisa came up just because that was the first time I had the opportunity to play with one even and ultrasound the females. And that was really cool for me to associate that with palpating. So now I can put the numbers on it and that kind of stuff. But it really is just grow within your means. It's crazy. Like you got to make the caging, the incubators, all of the stuff that you use is reliable, because you're going to go out and spend a $5,000 snake and then kill it because you don't have the proper housing.
Your heat tape's too hot or whatever the case may be.
You're
thermostat
not using
fails.
The right thermostat or you're not doing it the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Liz, I was just gonna add, because I think Joe will touch on this too.
Yeah.
If I could go back and do anything, I would start with my rat supply. I would make sure that I have an abundance of rats before I had an abundance of snakes.
Yeah, that's
and I think everybody fails at that. And Joe, you can probably really deliver that.
Yeah, that's where my family came in with John and Michelle, and we would not have the collection that we have if we had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Where and then we don't have to pay to feed them. So we bring females to shows. Somebody comes up and offers you half price. I can tell them to get lost because I'll raise it up and breed it. I don't have to worry about feeding them.
That's right.
The cost to raise a rat is minuscule compared to what it costs to buy them. And if you're oversupplying, a lot of times you can make back what you're putting into your rodents.
Yes.
You can kind of break even, right?
Yeah.
You can oversell for your costs, and then there's no expense at all. I think we decided to start. That was one thing we did right. We decided to start breeding rodents when we only had 17 animals.
Nice.
And we were paying, I think, like not even crazy, right? Like $50 a week or something to feed them. And we quickly were like, this is going to get expensive very quickly. And, we started out with just like 3 or 4 racks, and that was enough to feed everything. I think we were still supplementing like pups during the breeding season, right? Because I feel like sometimes no matter how many rats you have, you always run short on pups. But so that was definitely one thing that we did that worked out huge to our benefit, because you start growing quickly. It's amazing how one snake turns into 20, turns into 50. Yeah.
And the holdback start.
Yeah, dude.
Sheena keeps everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am also the hoarder. I feel that.
Yeah. Yes. And kind of going back to touch on what Troy said, I think it was actually Billy who made a really good point. And you guys have touched on this too, of kind of buy within your means, right? You can buy a freedom breeder, right? A $3,000 rack. But if all you can put in it is $100 normals, it's not worth it, But kind of, Joe, what you just said, if you could buy $1,000 snakes, but you put them in a rack and you bought a $20 thermostat and the thermostat fails and you cook your snakes, that's no good either. So, grow organically. Stuff comes with time. and just spend your money kind of smart, I guess, right? On infrastructure and on your animals. Joe, I had one more question I wanted to ask you. When you guys decided to build your building, was that something that was kind of a difficult decision? Like, were you like, I could take this money and invest it into the animals of the collection? Or was it something where you were out of room and needed a building?
Yep.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, that was every year, kind of, you'd get to basically January 1st, and the family would sit down. We talked each other instead of buying Christmas presents for each other, that John and I and Sheena and Michelle would go out to dinner and just sit down and talk about kind of the business and how we want to move forward. If it's worth moving forward, do Sheena and I just cut it back to more of a hobby kind of business, or do we really keep pushing? And honestly, every year the market told us that we could push forward. So then, we blew out of our house because we were in the basement, basically went from one section to the whole basement. And then we just had to move. It was worth moving. But then obviously we needed a place that could house the rats and the snakes. So we pretty much had to make the jump. It was pretty scary because then, we had to hold 2 mortgages, because obviously you can't sell a house when your whole basement's full of mice and rats and snakes. Not really everybody wants to see that.
Yeah.
So we had to buy this house that we're in now, fully remodel everything in the basement, put it back to make it look like a normal house. Yeah. And then, move everything in here. Yeah, it was crazy, but the building has been great. It's worked out, phenomenal. We're just always trying to detail it off, trying to make things a little bit better, trying to fine tune it.
We rearrange it more than the living room.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, for sure. All right, John.
Hell yeah.
Most developmental piece of advice for a new breeder?
I mean, I definitely go back to the earlier comment I had is, start failing, start getting those adult breeders, start pairing, start learning. I think that's what I would tell a new breeder to go do. And that's usually what I tell people when they ask is, again, go get those adult breeders and start breeding. Don't let your first pairing be some high dollar thing. Not only from a learning and experience standpoint, but I'm a visual person. A lot of people are. That's the best way to understand. And I think that going and putting hands-on learning is going to help people more so than whatever they can read or however many people they can call and ask, I got my first clutch. What do I do? Did you build an incubator?
Yeah.
No. Okay. You're going to need an incubator.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. You take that route, you call 5 different people, you're likely to get 5 different answers.
5 different answers. Yep.
Yeah. 4 and Troy's.
Yeah.
That's right. Was that an answer?
I've had people, call me and say that they bought like a chicken egg incubator.
Yep.
Right.
It's like, well, those don't work because they rotate eggs now, like automatically, right? The whole thing flips like every, hour or whatever. And I'm like, I had one person like, yeah, they've been in there for like 3 hours. I was like, take them out. You don't want them flipping back and forth the whole time, So yeah, definitely, learn what you can and get the proper equipment.
Yeah, the only other thing I would just tack onto that is patience. Right? People are not very patient. These are ball pythons. They maybe lay a clutch a year. So you got to realize that some of these projects are not going to be, okay, well, I'm going to breed her at 2 years old and she's going to eat and then she's going to be 13, 14, 1,800 grams. And then I'm going to get this male, but I'm going to get him breeding at 500 grams. So they're both going to be only 2 years old. And then I'm going to clutch 18 eggs out of them because, the lineage dates
1,800 grams.
Right.
It's 100 grams per egg, right?
Right. And then I'm going to do that every year and sell all the babies, and they're going to be mostly female, and the genetics are exactly going to play out to my favor or 50-50 or whatever the distribution is. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, as someone who, I forget the number now, so I'm going to exaggerate for emphasis, but out of, I want to say, like 80 double het Xanthic clown to double het Xanthic clown eggs, I got 1 Xanthic clown. Like it's just odds. And then there'd be people that, hatch 3 of them in their first clutch. And I'm like, if you were here right now,
yeah,
right in the face.
Yes. I had this past season, 76% of my hatchlings were male. 76%, and I
That's
had
wild.
I had 6 double visual clutches, right, of different things, but I had 6 chances to hit a double visual. I hit 1, and it was the one animal that I wanted to be male, and it was a female.
Yep.
Out of having 76%.
Yep. Like, oh, it's got to be
ratio
male.
this
No.
season. So
Yeah.
You got too many banana male breeders.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I've got your wonky male that throws me females and male bananas. I just never know what's going to come out of him.
Yep.
And to like that whole point, I remember talking to B1, right, with Brandon, not B2 Brandon, and he was giving me like shit about not being excited about things. And the reason I'm not is because whenever I do get excited about something, it all goes wrong, right? And so I try to always put myself a little bit in check when it comes to clutches and pairings. I've shared with you guys, whether it be on a Facebook Live or whatever, Instagram Live or whatever, we've paired, roughly 80 animals or something, and I'm happy if I get a clutch, which I've got 2, so that sounds stupid. But the point being, I don't expect to get 80. I don't even necessarily expect to get 40. I'm going to get what I get. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But if you set yourself up with a lot of excitement and you think you're going to get the point being you think you're going to get something is when you're going to get kicked in the nuts. So slow down.
Yeah,
And by the way,
Yeah, I
I got to address these comments. Like, they don't think Lisa's real.
She's a mannequin.
Oh, yeah.
She's a mannequin.
Yeah. And
Green
then,
screen.
Listen, if I would have thought of the mannequin thing, I totally would have done that.
they said you were
Great.
Yeah, if I told her that I could use the projector and made her like a little,
I'd have been good with
old
it.
school Star Wars, projection, I would have done it. But,
I
Lisa's
also
here.
have not made any cookies and do not plan to.
Oh, he's in big trouble tonight.
He can
she's
make
on
his own
strike, dude.
Yeah.
On
Every
strike.
knot
Cut
around the
off
noose.
from cookies, Troy.
Yep. Every knot around the noose that's just Lisa didn't make me cookies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, I've noticed that with my clutches, kind of going back. It's the ones that you're the most excited about that you're always like, oh man. And then the clutches that you almost kind of forget about, right? Like you're not counting down the days. You're not thinking about it, right? They're there. Those are the clutches that when they hatch out, you're like, oh, wow, this is super cool. Because you had no expectations, right? For that clutch. So when something cool does come out, you're just, it's surprising and
blown away.
So definitely something I've learned. And one thing a lot of people didn't really talk about, and Troy touched on too, when I first got in, was kind of the percentage of your breeders that actually go every year. Like people just didn't really talk about, you knew how many clutches they have, but you didn't know how many females they were running. Right. So I remember my first season that I had like 37 females. I'm like, I'm going to get like 30 clutches. This is going to be great. I think I ended up with like 14 and I was like,
no,
wait, hold on. I thought I was going to have twice the season that I did. So, and now that I know more people and started talking to them, I've noticed that like, and touch on this, if I'm wrong, guys, but usually people say between like 50 to 60% of their females are pretty average.
that sounds about right.
To go every season.
For me, I get
JSA,
about half. Yeah.
Yeah. JSA, what do you think you're at?
We kind of touched on this.
Which year?
Yeah. That's what I think we probably can just kind of start paying attention because this will be our 3rd breeding season in the building.
Okay.
So the first year we held off because we were moving.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 36 clutches when everything was still in the house. We had a large number of animals still, but we held back. We didn't really want to go crazy. But then the first year we moved everything in here, we hit 96 clutches. So it's kind of crazy. So that I've found that the females are really starting to change. They're all starting to get into a window. So like now we're really going to start paying attention to see what the percentage is. But I would say, 50-60%, you're doing pretty good. It's a matter of how many males do you have, what's going on, temperature. I mean, there's so many variables that it just, it's hard to I guess figure out exactly where that's at. But if you're 60% plus, I mean, you're doing really well, I think.
Dag, you being like a numbers guy, do you have an idea like what you run percentage wise as an average?
It varies year to year. I always feel good if I hit 50%.
Yeah.
That's usually kind of my go-to number, but yeah, it can be pretty high some years and then lower other years. It kind of depends. I mean, I'll give a data point, right? Like early in my breeding career, there was a season or two where I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do temperature drops, and I'm going to actually run kind of hot and let the females thermoregulate and da 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 da. And that was a bad call. Like you got to do some level of temperature adjustment, and that isn't to say you need night drops and things like that. I did that too, and then moved away from it. But you can't have 95-degree hot spots in the back and expect to have a bunch of slugs. An oversimplification is that the females, the smart ones, will thermoregulate. They'll adjust themselves naturally to the desired temperature, but not every female knows how to do that. They will always pick safety and comfort over having viable eggs. So if they need to be, in the hide, in the darkest spot in the back, even if it's 92 degrees, they're going to do that if that's what they need to do. So I think that you've got to do a little regulation yourself, but it's a balance.
That's been my fight, which John I think knows, and Joe definitely knows. We moved into this room. I bought all new racks. I went to the FB40. Again, if you heard me earlier, we're very good friends of Mark and Allie at Animal Plastics, and so I'm a big advocate or a big push for them. And man, I've had a hard time like regulating racks.
Not
and I've told Joe 100 times. Yeah, and Brandon, I talked to you even like like I have my racks behind me, and I run from 88 or 89 at the bottom, and I probably have some middle racks that are like 94, and then it goes back and maybe I'm up to 90. And so some of my racks are a little weird, and packing in extra extra bedding. But the biggest thing for me has just been watching the female's behavior and trying to kind of make that mental note or write a note of where she is hanging out. Is she getting away from the heat? Is she thermoregulating like she should, like to be at the best spot? But man, it's been tricky, and that's been a big worry for me this year too, clutch wise. Like, am I gonna end up with some slugs? Am I too hot? Am I not too hot? And so it's interesting to go through other people's rooms and see what works for them, and what works for them may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for them. There's definitely not a great science to it, but I think we all try for that 90, right? That 90 degree, and it is what it is. So
yeah.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I mean, most of us here actually, except Brandon, are and JSA, you're up farther north, but John and Troy and I are all pretty much within a few hours of each other. So we deal with the stupid hot summers and stupid cold winters, right? Where we have to adjust everything all the time. I know one of my biggest battles is like the humidity, because we'll go from like absolutely no humidity to like 80% humidity to like 20% humidity, right? And so we're constantly battling that.
Fighting it. Yep.
Yeah, and then John, I don't know, is your collection in your basement as well of your house, or
me? Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So we've all got basement that we have to deal with. Like I have a floor in my sacrum, but it's still stupid cold down here in the winter. Like the floor is really cold. And then Joe and Sheena, you guys have the heated floor.
Yep.
Right? So, the way that you are going to regulate your temperature is going to be way different between the way, Troy and John and I do, because we have to battle with it's really cold down here and then the heat at the top, so I battle that with just keeping a lot of air circulation in the room at all times. I got a fan in the back that points down towards the corner and a couple more on the other end of the room, and I just constantly am rotating the air. But you guys probably, I'm sure have, air movement in your building as well, but you don't get that really cold bottom shelf because you just have the heat that's able to radiate up through. So, your setup is always going to make a difference on how you do these things. And that's why it's not always a good decision to follow like one person exactly how they do it, right? Because someone that's breeding in Texas and someone that's breeding in Minnesota, it's going to be way different.
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal. The barometric pressure for us all here is huge, where I can't remember the name. I can't remember the guy's name. Moved from up this area to like Arizona, and it took him 3-4 years to get his collection back.
Figure it out.
Figuring it out because they were so used to the temperature and the barometric pressure that it took them a while to more of a drier climate.
We see that with, me working in the horse industry, we see that with horses. We can have horses in Illinois and Iowa who are so extremely fit, right? And they can just run for miles, and people will take them out to like Colorado and go trail riding in the mountains. And 20 minutes into the ride, this horse is drenched in sweat and gasping for air, because it's so different than us, right? You take that altitude change or, the weather difference, it makes a huge difference. So
I think you talk about like room setup, Liz, like Joe and or JSL, say JSA, they're open air rack, right? They're a freedom breeder rack, and so I think the humidity in their room and ambient temperature needs to be something different than necessarily what my room runs at in a basement and in an enclosed rack. And I think for a while I was getting kind of caught up in like listening to people's videos, not really pay attention to their setup, and then being like, oh, I've got to be at 79 and my humidity is at blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I got to do that in my room. But then like my tub temps were different. So like my front tub temp was like higher than what I thought it should be, or like what Joe thought it should be. And so, me and Dag are very similar. We're 3 hours apart and very well, pretty parallel from each other. And we're both basement, in basement rooms. And so I worry more about not necessarily my ambient temperature in my room. We do try to keep it in the mid 70s, but I track more so like my front tub temp, my humidity in my tub, like my back temp. And I feel like that's more important than necessarily my ambient room temp, because I feel like it's different in an enclosed rack versus an open air rack. That makes sense.
Huge difference.
Yep.
Huge difference. Yeah. For someone that runs
Way
both,
different.
like my hatchling racks are enclosed, right? But then I have like a freedom breeder and ARSs for everything else. And I have to battle humidity way different in my, closed racks than I do my open racks. So, but we've got it dialed in and figured out. But originally I was like, what is going on? Because my open air racks were, I was bumping up the humidity in the room, and my open air racks were like raining, right? Because it was so humid. Yeah. But then my enclosed racks would be like dry. I'd wet everything, the Reptile down, like dump water in it, and the next day it was all gone, So that's, again, comes in with air circulation. I have more air circulation on the open enclosure side of the room to help dry things out, and then I just have the one fan on the other ends to just move the air, but not cause so much air movement that I'm losing all of my humidity. So definitely everyone has to tweak it, and I think that's a perfect example too. Sometimes it's just how your room is set up.
Yep.
Where what is. So.
And then just pay attention to the actual animals themselves. Obviously, if you're getting stuck sheds, you need more humidity. But if they're shedding fine, eating fine, then obviously you're doing something right. Don't make some drastic change just because you saw somebody post a video or saw somebody doing something different. There's so many times that we sell snakes to people at shows, and they come to us and they're like, okay, we don't know what to do because I'm doing this, and then somebody just told me if I do that, I'm going to kill it. It's eating fine, it's going to the bathroom fine, it's shedding fine, but yet somebody over here just told them if you do this, your snake's going to die.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously. If you don't do it exactly like I do it, it's game over. I think, I think that's a great example too. Go ahead, Brandon.
So, being in the Army, I've moved my collection overseas, the East Coast U.S., and now the Midwest. So what I always do is what I call the build-up phase, where I'll start them on paper towel, Reptizorb liner, and then I'll move to Aspen, and then I'll move to Reptichip. And the reason why is because everywhere I go seems to affect obviously it affects the animals, but it affects the substrate, it affects the feeders that I'm breeding to feed my own animals because I only breed African soft furs. I don't breed lab mice or Norwegian rats at all. And so, for example, when I was in North Carolina at Fort Bragg, I'm putting my animals on ReptiChip, and it works great if I don't wet it. Because Fort Bragg is so close to the ocean, all the salt from the humidity in the air gets in all the water, and then I would spray it on my chip. Then it would increase the pH balance, and now everything's molding really quick. And same thing with my feeders. They're getting dehydrated quicker. I could see my ASFs literally sweating. So I had to run dehumidifiers. I had to run double the air exchange. And I just do like every time I move, I just start at like the minimum, almost like a quarantine setup. And then I build up until I figure out what's the medium, where does it work? And it works for me always.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Everyone's different. You gotta, take kind of the generic, right, of, you gotta, you don't want them to be too cold, you don't want them to be too hot, right? But in between that safe range is kind of where you just get to play and see what your animals prefer. So.
Oh, yeah. What are we getting next?
Right. Yeah, we're doing.
Oh, I like this one.
Go for it, Brandon.
The next question's favorites. All right, we're going to start with John.
Oh, man.
Hey, what is the best gene in the industry and why?
Oh, man. Can I get back to you? I'll have to think about it. There's just Exanthic. It's definitely Exanthic. No question in my mind.
You knew it.
End discussion. No need to ask anybody else.
Yeah.
No, I'll even give a why, right? And we all know how super duper biased I am, right? Exanthicism, I think, provides something to the industry that not a lot of other genes do, right? There is a sea of yellow combinations out there and different combinations of mutations that generate a ton of different yellow morph combinations, paint jobs, whatever you want to call it. Exanthicism does an amazing job of nulling all that out and giving you a color palette that only it can really do. The first pewters, were kind of that, but not. And, some of the other combos are kind of that, but not. You want silvers, you want grays. For the most part, that's the only thing that's going to get it for you.
You're fine.
So
all I took from this, John, is that you're colorblind, which is okay. No judgment here.
Yep, definitely. Yep. I think I posted, this was years ago, but I posted a picture of how it was almost a meme, right? Of how normal people look at shows and how I look at shows, and it's all black and white. I'm like, I'm looking at everybody's combos, but I'm going, okay, if I take the color out of that, what's it going to look like? If I take the color out of that, what's it going to look like?
John,
then
follow-up question from Kenny would be, what line of Exanthic? And I'm assuming you're going to say VPI.
That's honestly what I was going to go with, but I think I will tell you my politically correct answer, and I honestly do believe it, right? And that is, find the best example of an individual animal or animals that you can from a reputable breeder that you enjoy talking to and working with, that is working on the projects that you have a passion around, that are going to, in the future, just because you bought this one animal, you're going to develop a relationship with and buy more and more animals because they have the genes you need. If you want to make pinstripe Exanthic clowns, don't go buying from the guy over here and then find out that nobody's mixed pinstripe in Exanthic and then have to do that all yourself. Don't do that. Think about where you want to go. Think about the individual animal, how it looks. Think about who you're working with. Do the math, and then make your decision on what line. Is that normal?
Yeah, that's
Do they all brown out like that?
Yeah, that's a super normal het hypo, because we all know how I love hypo so much.
Yeah.
No,
Het ghost.
there was a
Het
question
ghost.
before I want to move on. Fucking, I hate that they call it ghost. So, and there's a scientific reason for that. It has nothing to do with any sort of naming stigma. It literally actually has to do with what hypo is and what ghost actually is in other species. But John,
Right.
the question I wanted to ask you, and it dawned on me just now, do you think from a genetic science perspective that exanthic or exanthicism and anatherism, so anery in another species, are the same thing?
No. I don't think they are. We actually had this discussion. Was it me and you, Troy, recently about anery?
I can't remember.
Okay. It was like a couple days ago.
For a while.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We were talking about holes, probably. But
Oh, damn it!
but I don't believe they are. I would tell
Okay.
people that what I was talking, I think, to Troy about was if someday there's an anery gene that comes out, I'm gonna have to get it. Like, not only from a branding and a marketing standpoint, but that's
So,
kind of
what
my
if I
jam.
told you there is one and it's in the UK?
I've already bought
Remind me
5
after
pairs
this.
of
I'll
them,
send you the
and
link.
I'm already mixing them into everything I possibly can.
That's part of the stormtrooper.
I figured.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
that's
secret
what it
that you
is.
said
Damn.
all the right? Damn it, Joe. No. You heard it here first, guys. This is where it all went down. The ingredients for the stormtrooper.
That's right. Never before heard.
That's
Yeah.
right.
What about you, Joe?
Or
Or am I moving too fast? For best gene. Best.
I'd have to say,
What's the best gene?
I've always been real partial to yellow belly, just because it fits in so many different things. Makes everything brighter, cleaner. You know, then you got the whole freeway, highway, super stripe, Puma, all that other stuff, and it's just always done us right.
Boy, that's
I fucks with that.
Yeah.
I like yellow belly a lot.
Yep. All right, Troy.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't even know.
I'm gonna go
What's
with
the best?
I think the all-time best gene ever is gonna be a piebald. From day one, man, I've seen a pied so many years ago to now. I'm still not. That love hasn't went away for me, and so my personal favorite would be a piebald. Now, if I could add something, I would say, to be honest, game changer in our industry and gets the most hate would be Spider. And I think Spider was a game changer for genes in this industry, and it gets a lot of hate, but it's not a favorite of mine. So if you're asking me, I think it's Piebald. But I think game changer in the industry, man, Spider all the way.
Oh, dude, I was a little kid, and I got money and got on a Greyhound bus with my babysitter. That's how young I was, and went down to Orlando, Florida, without telling my grandma, to see the first Bumblebee at Nerd's Table as a child.
I'm more interested in what you did with your babysitter.
I had to buy him off with part of the money. You don't even want to know what I had to do to get that money.
The story stops here.
He was a fat white dude with a beard who ate cookies, and he was bald. So I mean,
those are good
why
people.
we're friends.
Yeah.
There you go.
Don't talk about my kind like that.
All right. We're kind of spinning off that question, guys. If you had to choose to either work with only incomplete dominants or codoms, right, or only recessives, which would you choose?
Ah.
Troy, we'll start. John. Oh, John's got it. Go ahead.
But can you combine them or no? Only.
Only
No, one or the other. Yeah.
recessives, all the way. Yeah, I mean, with axanthicism, and I mean, I'm desperately trying to make triples without even cojam genes in the consideration. I think there's some amazing stuff you can do with recessives, and I, as insane as it sounds, I enjoy the patience of it, and just the time it takes and the investment, because I do think it's worth it.
Right.
That's how you get your world's first, right? Is you're patient.
Yep. Oh man, Troy left us. He's like, I'm not answering this. I'm done.
I don't want to answer it. Can't make
Lisa
me
finally
choose.
had enough.
Yeah.
Not in front of Lisa.
Take it.
Lisa's like, I'm out.
He's gonna touch his eyeballs.
All right.
Reset it.
There they are. Hey, Troy.
Again.
Lisa, don't lie. You hung up.
We're gonna.
Oh, Troy's a bottom now.
He's a power bottom, though.
Liz, we
Trust me.
switched.
We did. Yep. I know. Everyone
I
knows.
believe it.
Nice.
Sorry, Troy. You all
No,
good?
but yeah.
I think so. Like our internet just shut down, and so I'm on like 4G, so I might be blurry or something, and hopefully our internet pops back on.
No, you're good. You're good.
I mean, you did tell me an hour. It's been an hour and a half, so I was like,
Oh, yeah, like, we're done. I knew it. I said Lisa hung up on everyone. She's like, I'm done. Troy's gonna come back. Lisa's gone. They're getting the full size cutout, right? We're going with the mannequin plan.
there we go.
All right, JSA, and you guys might agree, but Joe and Sheena, do you guys have different opinions, or would you both go with the same one?
I think the recessives are just the combinations are far more interesting.
Yes.
You know, just to work with that and the time that it takes, and the results when you get them, the rewards are kind of what makes that. So if I had to choose, I would go with the recessive just based on that. But it's not fair to make me choose.
Yeah. I know, you don't have one without the other almost, right? I mean,
yeah, I guess that's probably why the only reason that the co-dominant stuff and even the market is still doing well, or still growing, is because now everything is het for something, or double het for something. So now that's the game, is chasing all those codoms into as many hets or visuals as you possibly can.
Oh yeah.
Sure. All right, Troy. Probably the same question. Man, we're gonna have same all across the board.
He froze.
Troy's froze.
Oh,
damn.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay? Oh,
I can hear you, yeah. There we go.
Okay. What was your question?
If you had to choose to work with either only codoms or only recessive, which would you choose?
Oh, I would have to say recessives. Like, I don't even really have a favorite codom. I would be a recessive guy only if that was, my way.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Next question. That was awesome. Like I said,
with nothing but codoms. I'm the only codom guy. Shit.
That's my business strategy. Everyone else says they would only work with recessive. So if this ever happens, right, and you have to pick one, everyone else is going to pick recessive. I'm going to pick codom.
Yep.
And everyone else will have recessive. I'll be the only person.
Codom as well.
There you go.
Well, I would just treat the super form as a visual recessive. Like that's just how I would work the projects.
I would tell you that I even get the inkling when I go to shows and I see like a 3, 4, 5, 6 gene combo. I'm like, God, that's cool. I really want to get that, and I want to get another one that's 5 or 6 genes. Completely not even care as long as it looks cool, and just put them together and see what happens.
Yes.
Just to see all the genes lay out and be like, I don't know what the heck this is. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think some of those pairings are the best. I don't want to say that we ever pair anything without some kind of idea in our mind, right? But there are some pairings every year that I'm just like, what the heck? I'm going to do, it's not a project pushing pairing this year. I'm just going to do something kind of like totally out of the water, right? Something that you wouldn't even, Troy's like, poof, that you wouldn't even think about doing. And sometimes those are some of the coolest animals or combos, the ones that you're like, that you wouldn't think, or, maybe you've got a 3 or 4 gene animal and a 3 or 4 gene animal, and you just want 1 or 2 of those genes in that snake. Like you're really just going for a couple of those codoms together in the same snake or recessives or whatever it is, right? In order to put towards a recessive project. Well, sometimes you get that animal with the other 3 codoms that you weren't even really thinking about, and you're like, that kind of came out cool.
It's the ones you weren't shooting for, then end up
are the ones that end up surprising you the most. Kind of goes back to the not having much expectation for that particular combo or clutch, right? And then when you see it, it's just like, wow, I didn't expect that, or I didn't see that happening. So
sometimes the simplest pairings make the nicest animals.
Yeah,
the simple genetics, not too many at a time, but when you get that result, you're like, wow, that's really nice.
Yeah,
and you think about it and how simple it actually is. It's still pretty amazing that there's still things that you make that, hey, I didn't know that was going to look like that.
Yeah, you can certainly overload a combo, especially with codoms. To where you get a snake that's just like, I like to call them like cookies and cream, right? Where they're almost like all gray or all like off-white base, and they've got like a few maybe black or gray or yellow scales here and there, but really it's just like marble. There's really not much to it.
Yeah, and I call them all pastel champagnes. They all just look like pastel champagnes.
Yeah, but sometimes just pulling 1 or 2 genes out of there, and you end up with this amazing combination. So you're coming back, Lisa.
They had to go make cookies. Lisa finally was relegated to making cookies.
This is what this was. Yeah, about 20 minutes. Let's set the timer. No, when the oven goes off, I'll be back.
We still have like a lot of questions.
We still have
like, damn, we're like halfway done, dude.
Yeah. We won't keep you guys too long. We try to keep it around 2 hours, guys. Just so you know.
We're fine.
Anyone too crazy late. We've only been on for an hour and a half, so hopefully we can knock these next ones out here in about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. But I got a combo, or I got a pairing right now that was like what we were just talking about. I got a buddy. He had a male that wouldn't do it for him last year. So he gave him to me to put to a girl, and it's a pastel Harlequin Spectre Orange Dream, which I don't know a lot about Harlequin at all, but I have a female breeder GHI Mojave that I really didn't have a plan for this year, and I was like, yeah, why not, man?
Let's see what happens.
It's just a bunch of codons, and maybe I'll hit some cool Harlequin shit in that. I don't know. But I'm excited for that clutch just because I don't know. And that's so exciting to me. Love that shit, dude. I got a whole incubator full of Desert Ghost. I don't know shit about that.
Yeah. But go to my like multi-gene codon to multi-gene codon thing. Like you could have a pairing where very easily it's 128 different genetic possibilities. And then you're like, so how many clutches do I have to crank out to see every one of those? Like you'll be like, let's find out what's in the clutch this year, because it's not going to be the same.
Obviously, it's only 128, right? Because we always hit 1 out of every 128 babies. I mean, the odds are always
that's
right on, right?
Yeah, perfect.
If you could only sell that normal that you get for the same price as the
it's like
128.
Yes.
Yeah, a normal, really?
Yeah.
There's 10 genes. 10.
Oh
Yes.
shit.
Just go kind of back to odds. A couple years ago, I had two sisters. They're both double het, albino pied females, and I had like an albino het pied male and a pied het albino female, right? I think it was our second or third season. Now I've got a double visual, so my odds are a little better. But that first year I bred the pied to one and the albino to one, right? And I got 8 eggs from both girls, which was just kind of a coincidence. And in the pied clutch, I got 1 pied and 7 normals, right? And then in the other female clutch, it was 8 eggs. I got 7 albinos and 1 normal, but I missed out on the double visual on both clutches. I didn't hit it on either one.
Damn.
So, yeah, crazy, right? And I don't know the exact odds off the top of my head there. Double het to a visual het. Should have
I don't
been
know. Double
1 in
het.
8.
You got
1 in
what,
8?
16?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, 1 in 8. So I should have hit 1 in each clutch, right? But out of 16 eggs, I didn't hit a single one. So
That goes back to everything we kind of started with, that even if you do everything right, raise your animals, get everything perfect, get a clutch, you still have to hit the odds.
yeah.
So that's the whole thing. You're going out and you're spending crazy money. You're going to make all these crazy world firsts. And that's why it takes so long for some of this stuff to actually get worked out, because it takes a long time to actually hit the combinations that you're shooting for.
I mean, I've seen, and I'm sure you guys have experience, you've been going for the same world's first combo for 3 or 4 seasons.
Yep.
And then someone who bought babies from you the first season brings them the first year and they hit 4 of them in the clutch. You know, you're like, I've been trying to hit that for 4 years. Yeah, you know.
Guy's such a dick. Oh, you're the best customer ever.
Yeah, exactly. So, I've seen it happen, and you're happy for the other person, right? But then you're also like, why can't I hit, why can't I hit it? You've got 1 clutch, you hit 4.
Yeah, I've had that happen so many times that it's almost ingrained in me. And I'll give you an example of how I just don't want to do that to other people. I had a great customer that ended up producing Batman's het exanthic that I purchased a male from, and he's breeding this year. He's not going anywhere near my double hets. I'm intentionally avoiding hatching Batman exanthic clowns, or at least even trying, because I want him to hatch one first. So, but eventually I'll get there. But so I'm patient, right? I'm not worried about it. Oh, here's a Firefly, exanthic Batman, or Firefly exanthic leopard spot nose het clown. That'll be fine. I'll use that, in a year or 2. So
that is awesome, though. I mean, that is really cool, right? Because most people are always after that next world's first. They want to be able to have that title, right? That I was the first to ever produce, said combo. So no, that is really cool.
Well, and in reality, right, I would say it's better to have the best than the first. Like if you can make the best combos and you can make the most of the best combos, that's way better than making the first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't be in such a rush to hatch the first that you're like, that's it. I hatched the first of this. And then somebody goes 2 months later or a year later and they're like, that one knocks yours out of the water.
Yeah.
Morph Market does us all a favor. Producing quality animals, because now they can look at them side by side.
Yeah, you're right.
Why am I even looking at this one?
Right, exactly.
It does always come down
no
to
contest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just now. What are the chances are that you actually produce the world's first?
Right.
That you really did.
That you really did. Somebody else has one and you just haven't seen it yet. Because there's so many combinations and so many people working with so many different genetics that, so just assume that I'm going to work on this, I'm going to make it the world's first. Yeah, it's probably been done before. It's highly unlikely that, there's a whole lot of really big world's firsts out there.
Yep.
You just always assume that somebody's already done it.
Or if you're hitting it, the chances of someone else hitting it within that season, right, is extremely high. Yep. It's not like you're going to hold that world's first for the next 3 years. You know,
Right.
it's just, and I think you made a great point, John, too. You know, is it better to have the world's first or the best? I was actually just having this conversation with a buddy of mine about some of my monarch stuff. You know, I've got double het monarch pieds. The male's going this year and the female should be going next year. And, you know, I had someone like, man, you know, you're already ahead of me in the monarch pied stuff. And I said, yeah, but I've got a male and a female, just normal double het, and a pastel double het. The pied stuff that he's got is like, you know, mahogany and inchy and like all these other codons on top of it, right? And I'm like, so yeah, I might be a year ahead of you if I even hit the odds, right? If I even hit it, or the females go and all that fun stuff, right? But where I'm going to be producing a monarch pied, you may be producing an inchy yellow belly monarch pied. You know, that's going to be way more blowing it out of the water than just seeing it, you know, in its base form. So I think that's another thing too. You know, are you going to waste that male or female just trying to hit the double visual? Or can you take that female to another male that has codons on top of it, or male to female vice versa, make some even better double hets, right? Take those later in the future and be producing something that isn't just the minimum, right? Producing something
Playing
that's really going to
be game.
Wow. Yeah. Because you only get the chance to make a first, you know, one first impression, right?
Yep. That's right.
Right.
I tell people that all the time when
All
they're
right, where are we
posting
Liz,
pictures of new stuff too,
Liz,
right?
to your point, like, you know, oh, did I break up? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah,
Now
you're
you're
good.
back.
Did you break?
Okay.
You're not allowed to
Nice.
break up with me.
I'll
with me
never break up
forever.
with you, man. I love you. I love you forever.
Thanks,
What I was
man,
going to
I
say
love
to
you
like
too,
your
bro.
point is I think like 7 years ago, I would have done everything I can to, you know, if I would have bought into like the Monarch project to make Monarchs. 7 years into the future to now, I would rather make double and triple hats, right? So like you see worth differently throughout that journey. And I think I wanted to be the guy early on that hit those, you know, world's first. I hate that, by the way. And now I'd much rather take that slow game, right, and try to make something cool down the road. So you definitely learn.
Yeah. Again, you know, only get one chance for a first impression, especially if you're working on a specific project or even just the direction of a project, right? You know, if all you can show me is the base morph or the most simple combos, right? Like I may be like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, I like it. It's kind of interesting. But if you can wait an extra year or two and really, you know, plan for yourself, and then when you show out a certain project or a direction that you're taking it, and you've got 5 or 6 animals that are just like showstoppers, right? Like bam, 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 bam. It certainly hypes that direction of the project or the project in general, right? Because you're not just like, okay, that's kind of cool. If you produce those animals, they're like, wow, you know, got to have that. That is so awesome. Or I definitely want to push towards that direction. Well, now you might have these animals that are, you know, top of the line, and then your single gene or 2 gene or visual animals are the ones that you can kind of, you know, sell to even help push that project farther, right? So it's all about taking your time. It's not about who gets there first. Definitely.
You kind of have to have the best of both
100%.
worlds, though, because like for you, if you did hit your Monarch Pied, you could take that to how many other recessive projects once he's up to size, while you already have, you know, your Monarch breeding to your recessives, making your double hets on the other side, you know, so then you're bettering your odds with that visual male, you know.
Yes.
So it's hard because that's where we're always fighting the odds, you know, so you want to try to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
That's how I run it.
Yeah,
that's how I run all
like,
my double projects. I put males to females. That's how I do it. Just like that.
Yep. Yeah. If you look at, I think one of the biggest animals in the Monarch project right now is probably like the Monarch genetic stripe clown, right? That Tom Harbin produced.
Yep.
That was I think a 6-8 clutch, 2 eggs went bad, 1 in 164 odds, right? And on a 4-8 clutch, you hit it.
Yep.
Like, it's just ridiculous,
Crazy.
you know?
And for
Never
once, it
would've
happened
thought.
to one of the nicest guys in the industry.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
10,000%. Yes. All right. So we'll wrap up here with a couple more questions. But if you guys could make a cheat sheet for breeding, what would be the number one thing on that list?
Cheat sheet for breeding.
Like if you had a step-by-step guide, right, of these are all the things that you need.
I'm
What
going to
would be the
answer first
number
because it's really easy. And I'm going to say you go over to John Degg's website and you follow his breeding guide that has not only the same chart we all see, but then it has John's chart that John made, which is actually really, really good. So my answer is go follow John Degg's website.
That was
There you
only from
go.
like 2015.
Yep, but it's perfect.
Yep.
I was
Way
going to say,
ahead of
like,
its
Troy,
time.
if you say, like, snakes, I'm just going to kick you off. Like, the number one thing you need to breed is snakes, right? Is the animals. Like,
Oh,
When
you're
a
the
boy
worst.
snake and a girl snake love each other very much.
All right. Cloacal destruction.
Jesus.
Told you anything goes here, man.
Yep.
I'm telling you guys, the reason we cut off at 2 hours is because like that's all
We
this
lose
guy
him
can maintain
off
at
the
like a
deep end.
normal.
You need an after
After
hours.
2 hours, he's done.
It's hard for me to keep it in, man.
we could do Reptile Revolution after hours, like
Yep,
on
you need
Instagram
an
or
after
something.
dark.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there you
We could.
Yep.
I guess I would
yeah.
probably say the number one thing on that cheat sheet is make a plan and recognize that that plan is obsolete the minute you wrote it down.
Yep.
Yes.
Because you thought through everything, but then be able to adapt to the changes that happen throughout the season. When that male duds out 3-4 months into the season, you're like, well, he's done. This isn't working.
Yep.
Okay, what am I going to do different? What am I going to throw in instead? Am I just going to give the girl the year off and try again next year? You know, all those types of things. It's great to have a plan going in, but you got to be able to change it throughout the season. Have those backup males, have those alternates, figure out what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I joke around all the time. Like, as soon as my 2021 season started, I started planning for my 2022, right? Like, I'll spend nights down here just literally, like, you know, writing through my holdbacks and, oh, I can do this with that. Well, I can take that to that. Well, I need more of this here, you know, just looking at what you have and deciding, again, kind of going back to, like, where your holes are, right? Like, maybe you have all these awesome
holes,
visual or het females, right? All these holes, yeah.
Awesome one.
All these visual or het females, and you know they got 2 or 3 codoms stacked, and then you're like, all right, awesome, and then you realize that you don't really have a male, right? To like go with these females, or vice versa. You've got this awesome powerhouse male, and you know, and really no direction to go with it. So that's definitely. I know one of my biggest issues is I love the bell complex. Like with a problem. Like I finally at the point now where I am trying to get all the bell complex genes out of my males because they're literally in 80% of my females. And last year, almost all my males had either lesser or Mojave in it, right? So now I'm here going, well, shit. I can make a 5 or 6 gene animal, but it's going to come out white, you know?
Right.
So that was one of my biggest things. I had to sit down and really reevaluate, you know, how I was going to kind of get around that hurdle. And that's just what I decided. It was easier to replace my males than it was to replace 80% of my breeder females. Yep. Right. So,
yeah.
But that was one of my biggest things. Like I'm drawn to Mojave like crazy. It's horrible. If it has Mojave in it, I'm like, oh, look at that. And I'm like, of course, you know, it's got to have Mojave in it. But I didn't realize it till kind of after I had bought everything, right? Or held everything back. And then I was like, damn it. I'm going to have a year I just make all white snakes, you know? But yeah, all right, Joe, Sheena, what have you
I
got?
don't know if I could actually, top. I'd have to agree with JD. I mean, the flexibility part of it. We talk about it all the time. Just this year, we have some workbenches in here and some chairs, and we brought computers in, and Sheena and I and John sat in here for, I think it was 2 different shifts, maybe 2 hours at a time. Tried to plan everything out, pick and write, what we're pairing to what's going where, and and then you got 750 gram male that doesn't breed, but then you got a 350 or 400 gram male that's just pounding away.
Yes.
It just there's so many variables that you run into.
Yeah.
So that's the I guess all the way back to the beginning is you learn how to do and what to do because your collection grows slowly when you start out. So then you run into those issues early on.
Yep.
So then now when it's critical, now you know what to do. You know how to be versatile and which way to move.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to know your animals because ultimately they're the ones that are going to make the decisions.
Yeah, that's
not
right.
You.
The females in
They're not gonna
particular.
do what you want them to do. They're going to do what they want to do. So.
Just like the human world, the females make all the decisions. That's what I've learned.
That's just at your house.
It definitely is at my house. That's right. The little female and the big female both make all the decisions.
People say
I'm with you, John.
People say that Hitler's bloodline is dead, but if you go to John's house, you will find a little Hitler.
Oh.
Oh no!
I love me some Tiffany. So
You're just lucky she's sleeping.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
I think
come right on over there.
Going back to what you said, Joe, with just kind of reminded me when you said you kind of look at it in shifts too. I think that's important too. Make sure you leave and come back. Like with any good project, right? The more you just keep looking at something, you kind of become obsolete to the different possibilities, right? We used to do that all the time in programming. Like there's nothing more frustrating than the fact that you're missing a period somewhere in 100 or 200,000 digit coding program and you can't figure out where that damn period is missing, and that's why the whole thing won't run, right? Like nothing works. Yeah. So you're like shifting through these, 100,000 or 200,000, syllables trying to figure out where you need a dot. Right? Computers aren't smart, people. You think they're smart, they're not. It's the people writing the programs that are smart. Computers only do what you tell them to do. There is no, they're not just like, oh, I got you. I know there's supposed to be a dot at the end of this every single time. Let me just put that dot in there. It doesn't work that way. So, that was one of the biggest things, right? Is like take a break. Yep. Leave it for 20 to 30 minutes and come back. And 9 times out of 10, you'll literally go like right there. That's where
and it's a no-brainer too, of course.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So give yourself a break.
Just be prepared for the time when you go to put that male in with the female and he says, why the hell did we do that?
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
How come I didn't think of that sooner? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what my, Kylie says my notebook looks like gibberish. Like I'm the only one who can read it. It's almost like it's written in a different language, right? But it's just like little notes to myself. Like if I decide to do that, I'll kind of put like a note on the side that says, here's what I was thinking when I decided to do this. Because sometimes we do have ideas that are completely random almost, right? Like we just happened to see something that we were like, oh man, that's an awesome combo. Let's try to, to do something with that. Or I wonder what that would look like if I added this gene to it. And so you decide to do that. And then you come back to that idea 3 or 4 months later and you're like, huh. I can't remember where I was going with this.
Then I blame her.
Yep.
There's always like a clutch like every year that I'll get the clutch and in the incubator and like getting ready to hatch or whatever, and then it'll dawn on me that it was like a really stupid pairing, and I'll turn to Lisa and be like, oh, I should have done that. I'm gonna get all white snakes, or maybe it was lethal, or whatever whatever I'd done was dumb. And Lisa turns to me and always says, why don't you run all your pairings by Joe or John or JD? And I'm like, no, because I'll be embarrassed. Like they'll be like, what are you thinking? So my point would be is maybe let somebody else look at it. Get another set of eyes on things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to agree. Yeah, I make a Google sheet and I put it all in there, and I update it year over year. And yeah, I share it with all kinds of people. Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of these pairings for next year? Blah 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 blah. And it's never the same.
He's never
And
shared with me.
I will share it with you, Troy. The problem is, to my earlier comment, it's outdated. Like the minute I write it all down and share it with people, and then I'll go and do pairings, like I'll literally map everything out, and then I'll go through and actually label everybody, and I'll go, well, I don't want that one to breed with that one. I really like the way that one looks and the way that one looks. I'll change that up. And so it's literally outdated the minute I start slapping labels on tubs, and it never matches what my end result is. But, you know, like you, Liz, I do keep notes off to the side, and it's one column for number of beers before I made the decision, and then the notes sometimes aren't, they don't even make sense. It's like hashtag pound symbol exclamation point. I don't know why I did that, but at least I wrote something down.
Yeah, that's my gibberish too. Like even when I was in school and I would take notes, Kyle's like, how do you, and I'm like, because literally like someone will say one word that sticks out to me, right? And I just write down that word, and then I remember like what they were talking about when they said that, or like one sentence, or you know. And so yeah, I'm weird, I know, but yeah, my notebooks just look like random gibberish. Like there's no rhyme or reason to them. They're just the way that they are. But hey, whatever works for you, right? Everyone has their own method that they go through
to their madness. Yep.
Yes, method to the madness.
Yep. Sometimes the best method is the most preferred method. I live by that shit.
Missionary guy, I'm reading you loud and clear.
Yeah, boy. You already know. I want to be so much funnier right now, but I gotta keep myself in check. God damn it!
Don't do it on account of us.
Okay.
Yeah, who told you you had to be in check?
Yeah. That was never my point, Brandon. You were more than welcome to run rampant. Well.
Whoa.
Reel it in. Reel it in.
My bad.
Are you sure? I'm a little fucked up, man.
Yeah, the 20-minute conversations that we have after these lives, guys, you don't. I'm like, Brandon, you need to go to bed. It's too late for this shit.
Yeah. I'm doing really well because I took my medication before the show today instead of after.
Are they still suppositories?
That's not even a joke.
I know it's not.
Yes, but they increased the size of the suppository because the Army's really been giving it to me.
Yeah.
The big green weenie. Okay. Joe, this one's going to start with you because I don't think we started with you for one yet. What is your most precious commodity?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is the wife.
Oh, yes. I was like, do I have to tell him, or is he going to do it?
I'm like, that's the obvious
Like, do I
one,
symbol?
right?
Yeah.
Going further than that.
Bring the
Yeah,
brown.
that was sly, Joe.
Right. But in all truth, this doesn't happen without her, the support of it. You know, it would never get this to this point for me without my family.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, she said she'll clean anything, dude. I told you that was a keeper. Hell yeah.
All the holes.
All of the whole.
Oh, shit.
Oh. Tonight's topic was
man, what about you?
What's that word? No.
Yeah, right? What about Troy? Fuck, man. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Before I forget, I always have to throw one of these up, or my girlfriend gets real pissed if I don't give her a heart at some point in these videos. So there you go, Ashley. So,
is that a heart?
There.
It's
No, that's a heart, dude. Can't you
It's
see
hardish.
it?
It's
a fucking heart, goddamn it.
I don't know. Why is it like this?
It's a fucking heart.
Open that heart up a little bit.
What? It's a heart. Right? How would you
All
make
right,
a heart?
Troy.
That's
It's
the shape of a
hardish.
heart.
It's good enough. It's the thought that counts.
There you go. All right,
That's
Troy.
right,
What
goddammit.
is your most precious commodity? And Joy already stole Lisa, so I mean, we'll just knock that one off the top. Well, the wife. She stole the wife comment.
Is friendship a commodity? I'm the first person to give up on myself. I'm an open book. I'll tell you that 100 times. And if I didn't have you people and a lot of people that are in the comments, I wouldn't be here in a lot of different ways. And so I think my most precious commodity would be friendship.
That's awesome. Man, John.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna piggyback kind of on those a little bit and say it's the people, because in reality, like as we kind of talked about, this is a second job for all of us, and as much as it's about the animals, it's the people too.
Yeah.
Like if it was just all a bunch of a-holes that nobody wanted to deal with and bad customers and bad people in the industry, there's no reason to be here. Like we've got other things, time to spend with family, other jobs we can go to, etc. It's the people that are both in our lives and support the hobby and that we meet through the industry that really make it the commodity of what we do.
All right, now let me
that
get you,
was
John.
some
That
really
was an
deep
awesome
shit.
answer. I just read the comment.
They're
That
killing me.
was like
They're doing
good
great.
shit,
I
dude.
agree.
Here it is, John. Like this big, great. The people want to follow it. That was so funny.
Perfect. There was
So,
a good
yeah.
question
Bad timing.
in here.
Yeah, are you talking about Matt's question?
Yeah, I like that question.
Yeah, I just told him like if we had time. So if we have time, I would love to answer that too if we want to go through it.
Yeah, what is it?
What was it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll get it up. The one about.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
John, you get to go first.
When he wrote it, I started sighing, thinking, how the heck do you keep to 10 to 20 clutches per year? So simple math, right? You're talking 30 to 40 females, roughly, to get that. And how many recessives is too many? I mean, I've done exanthics for a long time as just one recessive. Yeah. I don't think there's a thing as too many. I just think you have a coming to Jesus about the fact that you're no longer breeding 30 or 40 females. You're breeding, 40 to 50 or 50 to 60 or 70 to 80. Because with recessives and pos hets, I went through this like, God, I don't want to sell this pos het. Somebody else will prove it out. So I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get me anything to sell it. There's very little value there for a lot of the industry. I'm better off keeping it. And I still think that today. So yeah, I think that's the tough part is once you start going past one or two recessives, you will not be able to maintain the size of your collection. It'll be really hard to do.
And kind of go back to touch on what, we talked about rodents earlier, especially with those pos heads. If you breed your own rodents, it's so much worth your time and money and feeding them, right? To grow them up and prove them out. Because by then, now they're breeding, proven breeders, and you've proven them out to be het or not, I guess, right? But the ones that you do prove out as het, the value on them is so astronomical compared to what you were going to sell it for as as a firefly, pos het exanthic, right?
Right.
So yeah, definitely worth hanging on to them and proving that out for value wise.
Yeah, I have Superfly, Enchy, Exanthic, 66% pos het clowns. I'm like, yep, I can't sell those. I just can't.
Yeah.
Principle alone, I can't.
Even if it doesn't prove out a clown, right? Like you still have this amazing either visual or het exanthic that either you can now decide to sell at proven breeder size or hold on to it because you can take it and use it to, So yeah. All right, Joe, you want to go next? Joe and Sheena.
I'd say John's the perfect example. I've been into his place a couple times, and I couldn't imagine just that room and have to make that decision with those animals. It would be devastating to look at that and go, I have to sell this? I'm not. I have to. I'm going to put it under my bed. I'm going to put it somewhere. I'm going to hide it. I'm going to put it somewhere because how do you make that change
Don't put it under
when
my
you
bed.
know the value of the animal? You know, you're going to hide it somewhere. I don't know. Do something with it. But I mean, if Matt is interested, or I would say John's the perfect example of how to run a smaller collection. But he's been through all the trials and tribulations, I guess. He's been doing it for that long, and he knows what it takes to run recessive stuff through, to fine tune, to get the co-dominant genes in there, and then plus now with the possets and now getting into double visuals, I could never do it anymore. How would you cut back? Where do you cut back?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
How about you, Troy?
About you,
About
Troy?
the same?
Man, Matt, I wish I could give an answer that would give you an aha moment. I don't know if I have that. I think reading your question makes me assume that your room is limited, right? And so maybe you can only fit 40 females or 30 females, and so you think you're going to get that 50% ratio of 10, 20, clutches. And then throwing in the additive of, how many recessives is too many. I don't know if there is, because I think it's what you want to do. I get that you're trying to say like you want your collection to be like diverse, but it's such a personal choice in my mind. Maybe all you want to do is recessives. I think that it just comes down to what you want to breed. And again, I think we've all touched on that at some point tonight. You breed what makes you happy. You don't have to chase your next door neighbor, right? You don't have to chase the Justins and the Aussies, or for me, the JSAs and the Dags. You do what you want to do. And so if you want, I think I have like 13 recessive projects or something, maybe it is more than I need, but my point would be is it's what makes me happy. And so I think you pick what you want to breed, and there is no magic number of too many or too less. I think it's what makes you happy.
Yeah, I know Brandon and I have touched on this several times because we both run 7 different recessives, and we average between 20 to 30 clutches a year roughly. And I guess the hardest thing when you're running that many different recessives is hitting your odds, right? Like you would like to have 2 to 3 clutches at least, for each project, or if you're trying to hit, double visuals, if you're doing like double head to double head, or double head to, double visual, or whatever the case may be, it's hard to hit that if you're running a 1 in 64 chance and you're getting a 6 to 8 clutch every year, right? And but like we touched on, sometimes you hit 3 in a clutch, and sometimes you don't hit any for 3 years. It just depends on how it goes. So I would say at running about 7, I'm probably at the most that I would like to work at in my comfort zone right now. Just again, having enough animals to push each project, actually get the animals that I want, and kind of not just be working on a long shot every time and then never moving forward, right? Because if I'm trying to hit different projects, but I've only got 1 or 2 clutches, and every year I'm missing because I don't have enough to hit the odds, then you're never moving forward, right? You're kind of always sitting in that stagnant area. But with that being said, Brandon and I both don't plan on stopping at 20 to 30 clutches a year. We've got the
no.
we're doubling about every season, every other season, with holdbacks. So as we get more clutches and more females, we'll branch out into other recessives. But I would say that's the biggest thing. I think, it is what you want to work with, but you can certainly overload yourself with so many different projects that now you're never moving forward on anything, because you're constantly trying to throw this at one animal, or maybe this male at a couple females, and you just are, you keep missing those odds, or you're not getting the actual codoms that you need into a project, or recessives that you need into a project, or God forbid you've only got this one male going to one female, and it's a project pushing animal, and that female doesn't go, or that male won't lock, then you're just setting yourself another year back. So, definitely work with what you like, but try to keep it within an area that you can see yourself being able to move forward every season instead of just kind of producing the same things over and over because you can never get over that hump because you just got almost like a too many irons in the fire type of thing.
And Liz, if I can add a little bit to that, to Matt's question, the other thing I think that you'd want to pay attention to is having too many high dollar projects. So I think the dollars are higher in recessive projects than anything else. Obviously, added codoms make that a higher price yet too. But if you're making monarchs and crazy monarch combos and crazy clown pied combos and whatnot, your dollar point is higher than everything else. So I think there's a balance too on what you're doing with those recessives and or codoms, so that you have somewhat of a market dollar covered from inexpensive to expensive. It gets tough sometimes to move $5,000 snakes, and everybody on here can probably attest to that. So I would say be careful with that part too.
Yeah, that's only so much of our market, right? Is the people that are paying $5,000 or more for an animal, right?
Yeah, it's an 80-20 rule, which falls into a lot of different things in life, and 80% of our industry can afford $1,000 and under, and only 20% can go above that. I mean, that's just a reality. Wherever you want to put that number, if you want to say 80% can go under $5,000 and only 20% goes over $5,000, I think that number just moves throughout each dollar climb.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, for sure, definitely. Kind of spinning off that, John. Have you ever noticed that with just working with Xanthic? Because you're almost like a niche market within a niche market, right? So you're like really specialized.
Yeah, you are.
Have you ever noticed that with having to sell Xanthics, or even like your customers that are like, do you have anything else that's not black and white?
Yep. I do, absolutely. Like, I'll get somebody that'll message me about one thing and be like, hey, do you have any piebalds? I'm like, well, they're het Xanthic. Oh, how much are those? Oh, yeah, I don't want that. Yeah. Oh, do you have any white snakes?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, no, I don't. And I usually point them back at Morph Market or people I know, right? And say, hey, this is where you're going to want to go for what you're looking for.
Yeah. I seem to get hit up for pies, albinos, and bananas.
Right.
Those are like the three that everyone's always like, hey, got any of this stuff? So.
Well, it also helps for trade deals too, because people are like, hey, do you want to take a blah 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 and trade? It's not Xanthic, so no.
Right.
Can I just give Nick at Nivial a quick little shout out? It sounds like he got his first clutch of 2021, so congrats, Nick.
Nice. Awesome. Nick and Jules, congratulations.
Shit, guys.
Mm-hmm.
That is
good
awesome.
Stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping our first clutch hits the ground here in the next few days. How about you guys? Have you had your first clutch of 2021 yet?
I have 2 currently, and I have a girl right behind me that if there aren't eggs there tomorrow, it'd be the next day. So I should have number 3 here shortly.
Yeah, we just got our first one. This should be hatching end of the month, but then now we got kind of a lull. We got a couple that are supposed to be laying here in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
You had a pretty late season in 2020, though, didn't you?
Yep.
You guys,
so yep. That's back to the trying to get everybody dialed in the building now that they're starting to get their third going in, third and fourth season.
Yeah, we're way ahead of where we were last year.
Yeah. That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes 2 of us.
It helps when you start pairing them earlier too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that. Oh, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
January. I better start pairing.
You need to put the male and the female together to get them to start.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, I knew I was doing something up. I
forgot that part early in the season last year.
And I also, so like for me, I started pairing some stuff as early as August, and the ones I did are the 2 that I got early. Now, Dag, I know probably started. Dag, am I throwing you under the bus here? You started pairing in like January.
I usually try, because of my timing commitments, I usually try and do it over Christmas break when we're on break from work.
Mm-hmm. And
But
I
yeah.
typically try to start by November 1st. And then this last year, like I said, I started some really early ones. And by October, I was already pairing quite a bit. Now, the ultrasound has given me a lot of information that I've wasted a male a lot of times.
Yep.
But, you know, and Joe, I think me and Joe are pretty similar on when we start pairing things. But, yeah, I think everybody's season is different.
Yeah,
Yep.
the majority of our females are lucky if they get paired 3 times. That would be a lot.
Yeah.
That's more of a, that female's not going to go, but I'm going to continue to put that male in there until she goes because I really want the clutch. Yeah, but like you know, like you said, it's those ones that you just pair them a couple times and they're on cruise control.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how.
So I have a female behind me that I've paired and seen lock 12 times, and then I got the ultrasound like not quite 4 weeks ago. Next week will be 4 weeks.
Damn.
Right? And that's crazy. And to come to find out, she's only at like 12.5 millimeters. So I've wasted, you know, basically 12 times. I mean, obviously, like, I think it sparks their, you know,
Gets them
Follicular development.
Yeah.
right. And so it's something you have to throw in there, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't have bred her 12 freaking times had I known what I know now.
Yep.
I'm certainly not telling everybody you need to go buy an ultrasound. Joe is like phenomenal, and Sheena too at palpating. I couldn't palpate to save my life. So the ultrasound for me has paid for itself already.
Yeah.
I think if you're good at palpating, Dag, I think is probably pretty good at that too. But Dag also, I think, recognizes some things with his females that me and him have talked about. I wanted to know more info, and since I wasn't good at palpating, I think I forced myself into buying the ultrasound, which now I'm thankful for. So that's my 2 cents on that deal.
But they're at a really affordable price now too, though.
Yeah.
Correct. I spent $1,300. I bought the Context, I think is what it's called.
Yep.
I know Ball Python Room or whatever, they have one that's under a couple grand. But yeah, they all work, I think, you know, pretty well from one to another.
Yeah, I have an ultrasound. Troy borrowed it, and it's from years ago. I used it like a ton for 2 years, and it basically gave me a lot of insight. But after that, it literally collects dust on a shelf because again, the time thing and you confirming what you're seeing and what you're looking at, and that article Troy referenced earlier is part of that calculus that I went through when I was using it, and now I just kind of do it more ad hoc based on what I learned.
Yeah, B2, you should go to Dag's his website, and you could probably post that article on here, right?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Is it
Can I-
just
So, yeah.
is it just
Screen share.
JD Constriction?
I thought you were going to tell him to come to my house and we were going to do some
Yeah.
VR and play some
Where's the
PlayStation and do
doors
some
open?
games.
Walk the plank.
Walk the
my
plank,
So-
that's right.
I'm not even joking. One of the things that I really, really want in life that I've been waiting 18 months for, John, I have not forgotten, is a picture of JD autographed and mailed to my
Oh.
house, which I was
Yeah,
promised a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I need to get you that.
Yeah,
I need to get you that. Damn it. Sorry.
He made me pay for it.
Oh,
No,
man.
Right.
no, I didn't pay for it. I asked, and he said he would autograph a picture and send it to me, and never did.
He made me take my shirt off.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, you're gonna let John choose the picture that he gets to autograph and send you?
Troy's going to be involved in this
Oh,
one. Just saying.
shit. Hey,
Yeah.
no, if
A
you're
different
in the picture,
picture.
Troy, you also have to autograph it.
So in
We've already
John's,
got one of Troy's.
yeah, you don't want mine, man. Is this on John's website?
Yes.
on
This is
John's
the old
website.
school one from like
Yeah.
the Ball Python book from
Is this the right one? Or
there's
there-
a different
yeah.
one.
If you slide through, there should be another chart that John made, and that's what I wanted to like point
That
to
one.
people.
Oh.
Yeah, this
There we go.
information right here from John is brilliant, and I think you have to not just look at this graph, but you need to read John's article. And it's I'm not saying this because John and me are friends or we're in front of each other right now. Kind of, it's literally gold when it comes to content.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's just
You didn't put a gun to
jdconstriction.com,
my head
guys.
earlier and tell me to say
Under
it.
articles.
Yeah, I think the story of this is funny because Troy was like, "Hey, so I was looking at all this stuff and da 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 da, and I was Googling, and then I came to an article you wrote." And I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Tell me more about this." So then I talked to him. I said, "Well, I don't even remember what I wrote, but
Yeah, right. I don't even remember this.
what did it say?" Because follow that.
Yeah, it's a good article. Yeah, definitely.
Was it
If
good?
anybody's listening, like the 20-some people listening, or whoever hears this afterwards, like, man, take the 5 minutes it takes to read that article, and I swear it's an eye opener.
Yeah, I was just scrolling through it, looking for it. It looks, yeah, there's like a lot of information in there. Very nice.
John, you said that was from 2015, that article?
I don't remember, but it was not recent.
Yeah, April of 2015.
Wow,
Because
I did pretty good then.
Yeah,
I was
look at
going
that.
to say, I'm quite confident I did read it in 2015 because
I think I read it a couple years ago too.
Yeah, the first recessive morph I ever got was the Desert Ghost. The second was the Exanthic because I saw your Exanthic Firefly. It wasn't even the Stormtrooper that hooked me. It was your Firefly, and I was like, fuck. Yeah. And I remember reading that article after seeing that. 2015. Holy shit.
And I would make an interesting comment relative to that. I think the Stormtrooper put JD Constriction on the map in terms of, just awareness of us as a business, but the Firefly Exanthic is actually the backbone of everything we produce in terms of looks, in terms of visuals. Like, that's kind of our known combination, and has catapulted everything.
Oh yeah.
John, would you be able to talk briefly about like how much you've picked the best animal and line bred? Like, I know we haven't really spoke on maybe that a whole lot tonight, but you would be, I think what you've said before, really makes a lot of good sense.
Yeah, I mean, generically, I would say that, even going back to I got an Inchie and I got a spot nose and sold him and got him back. I would tell you part of that is the reason it's so painful is I would tell you I had the best looking spot nose I've ever seen in my life, and I got rid of it. But to Troy's comment, like, I'm very picky about even a codom gene I bring into the collection and what it looks like, and then the mixture of some of the best examples of multiple genes in a single animal, that's what really shines through. And I'll say, even naively, sometimes I'm like, oh, this looks like a good snake, and then I'll have Troy over, or Joe and Sheena and company, and I'll be like, yeah, so these are Firefly Exanthic or Firefly Clowns, and they'll be like, those are really nice Firefly Clowns. I'm like, oh yeah, I think this is how they normally work, right? And they're like, no, that's really nice. Da, 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 da. So every once in a while, not all the time, we get lucky, and some of that selective, both breeding and selective choice in specific animals really shines through. And I think that's, again, going back to the recommendation to look for that in the animals you get from people like these guys that make great examples of stuff and work towards improving it.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, it always starts with your base, right? You can only be as good as the animals that you start out with, for the most part, right? You always get that weird one that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was always told like, line breeding is a thing no matter what you do, but you're only as good as your last clutch. Is what, like, I always remember being told as a younger guy. Like, you need to line breed as well as push your projects.
Yep.
Like, that's two things you need to always be doing. Hold on, I need to look at the next one. All right. What is your best self-critique?
Critique?
Yeah, critiquing yourself. Like, how would you critique yourself? What's your best self-critique?
Troy should go first. He's probably got a list of them. He's got to narrow it down. But I think if you make him go first, he'll come up with one.
I think it's because you guys know how bad I tear myself apart, and that I rely on you guys to make me feel good, right? So coming up with my own best critique is actually really tough. That hits me in both industries for me. You know, as photographers, our work is never as good as the next person's, and I can constantly tear myself apart. And I think that's bled over to this industry, that whenever I breed something, I feel like I haven't achieved a great example of said gene versus JSA or Dag or Justin or whatever. That's really tough. You know, I don't know if I have a good answer. You know, I think that something I can critique myself well on is that I know who I am, and I will always recognize my faults, and I will always make my wrongs right. So that's probably the best critique I can give.
That's good. Self-honesty is
that I will always make my wrongs right if you give me the chance. So always, I'm human, right? We're human. So.
And Lisa, what is your critique of the best thing about Troy?
I got no comment.
I can't bet anymore, right? Because I'm in Gamblers Anonymous. But had you said, Troy, what do you think she's going to say? I would have said, no comment.
All right. Who wants to go next?
How about you, Joe?
Probably just that I'm brutally honest. You know, if you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer. You know, my opinion on it. You might not like it, but I'm going to try to be fair and honest about it. You know, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I mean, we've talked to a ton of people into not buying snakes because they weren't ready. Or they were buying the wrong snake for their collection. You know, it's not about that. You know, it's about making sure that the snakes fit for what they're doing, the direction they're going. So I guess that would be probably my, first come to mind answer, I guess.
How about you, Sheena?
I can relate with that one.
Yep.
For me, it's probably, I'm notoriously optimistic, especially with my customers. I will share in their joy of getting a new animal or how excited they are or that type of stuff. Like that actually, like that's going back to kind of the early discussion about the people in the industry. Like that's actually like, I think where I get the most out of it as well, and where I think my critique is that I try and find all that positivity and I reflect it back on them, because I think that is amazing to get new animals. It's amazing to have that feeling that I've lived, several times with different animals, different clutches, purchases, whatnot. To live through those people is pretty awesome.
Yeah, every sale almost becomes a relationship. We don't have an online store where you just click add to cart and pay for it and leave. You actually have to contact us and ask us, questions, and I think it builds relationships. Being able to do it that way, that we're still at a size where we individually talk to everybody, whether it's a quick 2-word, interaction to start it with, but it becomes an actual conversation. It becomes a very, if even short-lived, a relationship, and you don't get that with a whole lot of other industries.
Yeah,
that was really fucking good.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, dude.
That only took her 3 beers.
Sheena, you just crushed it. You just crushed it.
I think that's a huge part of
shit.
this industry. I've seen so many people not do well in this industry or not sell an animal simply because they're not willing to have that conversation.
Yep.
Right? They're very off-putting. They're very much like, you're going to buy it or you're not. It's very like they don't want to put forth that effort, right? To make the relationship and make the person feel comfortable. Because, at the end of the day, you're taking home a live animal.
Right.
You want to make sure that person has a general idea of how to take care of it at least. I've talked lots of people out of buying snakes because like they kind of came to a reptile show, they didn't know what they wanted to buy, and they don't have anything at home, right? Like they're gonna buy everything for it at the show, they're gonna take it home, they're gonna set it up, and it's like, I've talked so many people out of buying an animal, and 9 times out of 10, I will say they usually come back and buy one. Either they go and they get all the supplies, and they either reach out to me in the future, they come back to the next show, right, and they're ready to buy an animal, and those are the kind of people that I really want my animals to go to anyway, right? I mean, we don't have complete control over where animals go, but I will say I've refused to sell to people simply because I know how they're going to end up keeping those animals.
Right.
Yeah,
so that satisfaction in when they actually take advice,
yes,
and run with it, and it helps them because they're like,
right,
you were right.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
really,
maybe
you get a little, when you get that positive reinforcement that what you're saying every once in a while gets listened to, it means a lot.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, true that.
All right.
Well,
we've kept you all for. Yeah, we've kept you all for 2.5 hours. So I know it's getting pretty late. We just have like a quick, what we call revolution round. It's kind of like the fire questions, right? Where we're just going to read them off. Yep. Shouldn't be anything too crazy, I hope. So the way that I think we should do it is we'll just alternate like who goes first, right? Because these are supposed to be like off the top of your head, all right? So
like
I think we'll start with John. We'll go like John, JSA, Troy, and we'll just keep rotating. We only got about 6 or 7 questions. So,
okay.
All right. So the first one, debate of kind of our channel. How do you say when you're saying like caramel albino? Do you say caramel or you say
caramel albino?
Caramel.
It's caramel albino.
Caramel.
Man, I'm only Midwestern. This is caramel. All 3.
Hell yeah!
Yeah. I guess East Coast is my friend on this one.
Caramel sounds bougie.
Talking about.
All right.
Next question.
I guess Joe, we'll start with you.
How much
do you bench?
Yeah.
Sorry, Brandon. You do it. This is your question.
That's my question. How much do you bench?
How much do I bench?
1 rep max. How much do you bench 1 rep max?
I think I was a senior in high school the last time I did that.
How much was you benching in high school?
Yeah, and
this one time.
And I guess I couldn't even really give you an answer anymore. I don't even know what the max was.
His memory shot. He's getting old.
That is true.
How
Sorry,
much?
I wish I had a better answer for you.
Damn it! How much do you weigh?
Me? 240?
Yeah. Okay, I can bench you. Troy, you're next. I can rep you. Actually. We're good there. We don't bring people onto the show who can lift more than me. So Troy, you're next.
But we don't ask
I can bench.
Yeah, I know, right? Shit.
Like two full bags of double stuffed Oreos.
All right. Well, Troy, he can officially bench more than me. He's not allowed on anymore. Shit. What about you, John?
I haven't benched in ages. My max in high school when I was lifting all the time and in football was 395.
What was her name?
Shut the fuck up.
Great.
Almost broke the chair.
Yeah, I played football in college. We never did 1 rep maxes there, but I used to do sets of 2 with 350. 5x2s.
Right.
I'm not that
We're
muscular
about
anymore.
even.
Kids have worn me down a lot.
God Damn it! I'm
Bench
not looking
pressing
forward to
just
the
his
kids.
child, but like this Finley weighs a couple hundred pounds coming right out of the
Yeah.
deal.
Yep.
He looks like
You're
a
an
missing
old
baby.
128 pounds. That's true.
Yeah,
Oh man.
It's a lot of
he's the
child.
cutest though.
All right.
That's
Troy's
awesome.
first this time. Troy, what is your catchphrase? And everyone's gonna do this. So Lisa, Sheena, you're all in on this one.
Troy's
your
catchphrase
catchphrase?
is 50-50.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, I just say, the thing I say most is probably in 50-50.
Hell yeah!
There you
I
go.
can tell you Lisa's catchphrase is no, Troy. Stop it, Troy. You're stupid, Troy. Knock it off, Troy. Shut your mouth, Troy. Leave me alone, Troy.
He sounds like a dog, doesn't he?
Damn!
I thought it was right on. Right on.
Oh, there you
I
go.
throw that on a lot.
Really?
Yeah,
Because he
man.
tells me to kennel up all the time. So which
Get
one
to
of
get.
us
True.
is
That's
really
another one.
the rude one?
Lisa needs to get to getting. All right.
All right.
sorry.
You're getting.
All right, John.
Oh,
What's your
these guys
catchphrase?
would. I think we should have had everybody do somebody else's because I think
Yeah.
they'd be like, "This is what you say the most."
There we go.
John's is generically and
Yep.
ping.
Ping.
Yep. John
Ping me?
says they ping me and generically.
Yeah, I do say generically a lot.
He has to dumb things down for Troy and I because we're not as smart as him.
Yeah,
I say
John's
dumb things down.
All right. What's Joe's?
I have. You guys are gonna have to answer for me, Troy.
Ooh, I don't know. You guys are so quiet.
Everything's so well thought out. It's not very repetitive. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
It's like, here, let me give you an articulate answer. Well,
Yeah,
damn
they
it,
don't
Joe.
have, like,
That's
a-
not fun.
You don't have like your filler, right? Like I used to work for a boss that was, you know what I'm saying?
You know
I
what
mean,
I'm
I
saying?
swear to God, at the end of every sentence, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm
You
saying?
know what I'm saying? I was like,
saying?
Josh, you say know what I'm saying one more time, you'll lose it.
Generically.
Fuck that crap off.
Yes, bitch, I know what the
Right
fuck
on.
you're saying.
Yeah, it was a stressful day.
Right on.
Shit was going wrong. I was like, I know what you're saying. You don't need to ask me every time you get done with a sentence.
Right on.
All right.
Horrible.
How about you, Sheena? Do you have a catchphrase?
I say son of a bitch a lot. A lot.
You say what?
Son of
Son
a
of a bitch.
Sons of bitches.
You
A lot.
sons of bitches.
There we go.
Damn.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Next one, Brandon.
All right, so this time we're starting with John, right?
Sure. I think so. Is that
Of
what we're on?
you three men. Wait, what? Yeah. I see the one we're on. Of you three men, which one is the most handsome?
It depends on what we're wearing. So I think fully clothed, it's me. But if you're talking like a onesie or some sort of banana hammock, it's Troy.
I think you just go to the comments,
Yeah.
and they can just vote. They just vote best looking
Come
guy.
on, we're
I almost
voting.
feel like there should be competition.
I will take my shirt off.
So,
There we go. We are gonna have the John Joe Troy fashion show
I
next
have,
week,
like-
guys.
I have the absolute perfect
I'm
dad
sorry.
bod. I got a little bit of titty. I got a hump right here. I got some
fatty
fur.
liver, Troy.
I got fatty liver.
damn,
I am dying
man.
from fatty liver.
That's right.
My face hurts from laughing so
Yeah,
damn
what do they
hard.
call people that think they're dying for everything?
Oh, of course not.
Hypochondriac.
I'm a hypochondriac.
You are 100%.
Yeah.
I'm dying. I'm about to shit my
God.
pants. Troy, no, you're not. Okay, you did. You're right.
Told you I was sick.
Aw, B2.
Aw.
Yeah, that's right.
Aw. It's because he looks like Pee Wee Herman.
Thanks, God. Thanks, man. I do.
It's true though.
You
Why
know,
is
when
it
I was
so
in jail,
true?
that's what they used to call me, Pee Wee Herman. Yeah. When I was
That's the
locked
first
up,
thing
they
they
used to
told
call me
Troy
Pee
about.
Wee, and then I fucking When I looked like Pee Wee Herman?
That's the first thing I told Troy about you.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, that's what they called me in jail, man. They called me everyone called me Pee Wee Herman except for the black dudes. They called me Pecan Tan. Don't even ask.
Speaking of holes,
Right?
It's after 10:30.
Oh,
We're in trouble.
God damn it.
Yeah, I tell you
Medication is
guys,
Yeah,
wearing
it's
2
starting to
hours.
get bad.
That's all I get. All right. Who would win in, or guys, who would win in a belly flop competition?
ooh,
That way. Troy.
I think
I knew it.
But
Real quick.
I think I've got more mass, but Troy's just got the perfect shape. That I think, yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
going to be
Troy-
prettier. It's going to be prettier, Troy, afterwards.
yeah, I
In
carry
his
all the
banana
weight.
hammock, just
Mhm.
stained red from the splash of the water across his hairy body.
I feel like you've had this dream before.
I don't know, John. You're talking about Troy and banana hammocks a lot. I mean, is this something
We have
I've-
we have
I've-
room together.
or-
Once you
Told
have
you
the
we've all been
visual
together
aid,
way
it
too many
scars
times.
you for life.
Yeah.
So don't forget.
Is this what happened in the Airbnb trip or what?
Well,
Yes.
Troy did warn me the first night. He's like, by the way, I sleep in my underwear, and we only got one bed. The first show trip we did together, and I was like, okay,
And I
I'm
told
fine
him
with
to get
that.
Lisa between us, and he was like, "No, you're fine. You can be next to me."
Because there's a big spoon, little spoon thing there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I'm big spoon.
You know,
John
he's
likes to be the little spoon.
it's
Yeah.
true, I
John
do.
likes to be the
Yeah.
little spoon.
Oh man.
Yeah. What's next? An animal you don't wait. An animal that you don't have that you would want to own.
That's easy. The dwarf came in.
A
Me
giraffe.
too.
You're P2's next best friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Maybe we'll take a trip to Nerd together.
Yeah, I want like a Herman's tortoise
as
or
soon as,
something.
Oh, that'd be cool too.
I'm
Little-
going,
little
no,
tortoise
no,
doesn't
put
get
your
very
giraffe in your damn tortoise. We're going
Call
to
him
Nerd
Bowser.
in August.
Yeah, I think I'd want a giraffe.
Yeah, Bowser's a tortoise. Would be dope.
Something realistic.
Troy's like just pulling it out. Yeah.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
What
How cool would it be to, like,
about you,
you put a
Lisa?
giraffe in the
Yeah, right.
backyard, and you're like, oh, like you call, like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm feeding my giraffe. Like that would be cool.
That's
Troy-
pretty badass.
Troy, I think you want a monkey because then you want to be like, Michael, even the monkey can do it.
Yes. Plus, I could probably train the monkey to throw shit. Mhm.
Yes.
You call it
Yes.
done. Never, I could see you digging on the monkey a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. He likes you more as a dad than me.
Well, I give him less of a hard time, I
Yeah,
think,
dude.
than you do.
Mhm.
I'm more patient with somebody else's kids.
And you feed him.
And
you
I feed him. That's true.
Yeah, we don't even feed him.
Yeah. Well, I feel like he's been withheld from eating good food his entire life based on your
Yeah.
dietary restrictions. So,
So,
hey, have
funny
you had
story,
this?
Like Michael's stimulus check came to my account today, and he's like, "Did you get my stimulus check?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." So I pulled up my account, and sure enough, his stimulus check's in there. So it's $1,400, right? I think is what it was. And so he's like, "Well, you need to give it to me," and I'm like, "No, I don't." And so it went back and forth for a little bit. I sent him $1,000, and then I kept 400. And he's like, "Why'd you keep 400?" And I was like, "For everything I do for you each month. You know, like I put a house over your head, I feed you." And he's like, "You don't even feed me." Yeah.
All right, Lisa, how about you? Lisa's like, no animals. I don't want any more. No.
But if you could have any animal,
I don't
what
even
would
have this one potty trained
Yeah,
yet.
true.
I actually pee in the garbage can down here sometimes. She gets really mad.
I do. It's real gross.
Gets carried out and put in the garbage
I
can.
fucking
By
love
me,
you
I
guys.
carry
Troy,
it.
Troy,
I'm
don't
the one that carries it out.
I
Troy,
want to know what animal you would pick. I'm curious.
I don't know.
You could have any animal.
She's already got a bear. Rawr.
You can't just pull something out. Pick something.
I was thinking. I don't know. Sloths are pretty cute. A koala bear, if I could have that. That would
Koala
be
bears
cute.
have herpes.
Oh well. So do a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Jay.
She's like, so do you, Troy. So no.
I am
Yeah,
like
right.
a walking STD, basically. You can't get rid of me. I don't come off you very well.
Yeah.
I'm like a
I
big
need
giant
to go
red
back to
sore.
this. Don't you have a sink in your basement?
Yeah, so one time I had to pee, and I told her, like, do you think it's weird if I pee in the sink? And she was like, yeah, don't do that. So I peed in the garbage can. It's like full of old reptile shit and shit, right? So I was like, well, screw it. I'll just pee in there, and then I'll take it outside, and I'll dump it.
I mean, most people would have gone,
Oh,
"Oh,
shit.
if you don't want me to pee in the sink, I should pee in the toilet like a normal human."
I didn't want to look upstairs.
Lisa, you should have just taken the sink. Yeah, I have the same thing. We have a sink down here, and Kyle's just like, oh, I don't want to walk upstairs, and I'm like, what? What?
I soak the tortoise in the sink though, so
Oh, that's a good point.
You guys got to think
Oh.
ahead. You just put a urinal in your snake room.
It's
That's all
coming.
you gotta do. There
Troy's
you go.
brother has a urinal in his garage. It goes outside and just
It's just a pipe that you pee in. And it goes outside.
It just goes
So
straight
cool.
out. Just,
Sometimes simple is best.
Yeah.
all right. All right, so the last question we have, I think we're on Joe for the next question. How are you revolutionary?
Oh boy. You want to answer that one for me?
No.
I'll get the hard ones first.
Yeah, let's
I
go.
think you already said it, Joe. I think your honesty, right? You're direct and honest with people. I think that's how you're revolutionary. Is you don't have that in industry and everybody, right? Somebody's trying to make a sale, or somebody doesn't even know how to be direct with somebody and honest. I think that's how you're revolutionary. That's what you're providing, is that directness to people that need it.
I picked that answer.
That was-
You're like, I picked that one.
Yeah, I picked that one. Yeah.
because you answer the phone every time Troy calls.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even do that.
It should probably say, "Don't answer this call." Don't answer this call.
No, I mean, there was a ton of people, like Sheena started out earlier, that, we talked, John, Robin, Markland, Mark Bailey, and I'm sure I'm forgetting different guys that just early on in the industry that were honest with us, gave us opinions, direction, that kind of thing. And it's one of those that we just feel we need to pay it forward, that, we've all developed great relationships, and we want to be there for the people that are reaching out, so it's just trying to make it better, answering the question. It could be the simplest things that change the direction or keep somebody moving forward in the industry. There is so many people that we've all dealt with that if we had to deal with on a day-to-day basis, that would turn us off. That, maybe you're not investing into the next project, or you're that person that's on that maybe 10 animals. They've dealt with a shitty person the last couple of times. Maybe they get out, so it's just trying to push people in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know,
Like that.
you guys have always been an open line for me, especially, and I've always been very grateful to, all the questions you guys have answered over the years. And I can't think of anything specifically, but, there's been times too, I'm like, well, what do you guys think of this? And Joe will just be like, yeah, no, don't go that direction. There's no sugarcoater. He's like, why would you do that?
No.
Like this total
Good.
awesome, but it's
No,
awesome
that's a
because a lot
good
of
thing.
people
Yeah.
would sugarcoat it and be like, oh well, I mean, yeah, I guess you could do that, or just not really, I guess, give an effort, right, to give an honest or sincere answer. So,
Yeah.
For sure. I would definitely say that 10,000. And even touching on what Sheena was saying earlier about making your connection with your customers. There's a lot of breeders who don't do that. Who don't take the time to actually form a relationship with the people that are buying from them. And I've noticed that just hanging around with you guys at Tinley. I mean, every person that walks up to the table, it's a friendly hello. It's asking questions. It's, if they have questions, it's answering. It's giving them the information that they ask for. You get a lot of breeders that just kind of, if they don't think you're serious, they almost act like I could look everywhere else in the world, but at the person that's standing in front of my table. For sure.
Yeah, right.
All right. Troy, you're next. How are you, revolutionary? Lisa's like, not. I look at her face is like, no.
Can you help me out here?
No, you're on your own.
Can John Degg answer for me too?
I think it's your suits. How is your suits not revolutionary? That is fantastic.
That's 100%
True
John
that.
Degg. So without John Dagg's inspiration of me doing it, it wouldn't have happened. And so I will claim that. But it's 100% thanks to John. It was 100% John's idea, and
you did it. But I just said, why don't you do that in the snake world? You do it in the photography world, the photog world. Just do it in the snake world too. That's totally awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a guy this weekend at the Kansas City show that was trying to be me. I might find him. I'm gonna light him on fire.
Yeah. Pimp suit ain't as strong as mine.
Yeah.
That suit is flavored.
I like the suit game. I'll take that as an answer. Yeah.
I like it. It's different. It's something that apparently now someone else is trying to steal it, but up to this point,
the thing is like in the photography world, the number one thing we always tell new photographers is do something that sets you apart from the next one, right?
Yes.
And that should be in any business. So when John said it to me, it made sense. And I've had a lot of fun with it, and I get a lot of compliments, whether they be out of fun or out of sincerity or whatever. Like it's always it brings something entertaining, and I enjoy that. I love humanity, I love people, and so it definitely is a fun thing to do at the shows. So I appreciate John giving me that inspiration.
And I appreciate looking at him in his fancy suits.
Yeah. With bedazzled logos on the back.
That's right.
Yeah.
He has a leopard fur one.
Right?
The best part about
That one might be making it to Arlington.
Ooh.
It better.
All
I'm
of
gonna
that.
hold you to that. That needs to make
I
it to
fucking
Arlington.
hope so.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
He's
also
the
watched
only guy I know with an
Those
entire
jackets off his
closet
back.
for his suit coats. So
his charitable, his just outright generosity.
You need to bring all the suit coats. You need to bring all the suit coats, Troy, and then be like, for $5, you can put on a suit coat and take a picture in front of the best dressed model.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yep. I kind of like it. I might
That's a
roll
good
with that.
idea, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I paid for my table and suit coat
COVID-free
photographs.
suits.
Yeah. You can get a Polaroid cameras now for like stupid cheap. They get really cool pictures, like sign them on the bottom.
Oh, that'd be cool.
There you go. Troy's like, the last thing I want to do at a snake show is take more pictures. Like, this is the worst.
Yeah, right.
Like,
that's what I want to do is carry all of his luggage.
Yeah, that's true. Lisa does carry everything.
oh.
What is Troy bench? Whatever Lisa benches. She does the lifting.
Mhm.
There you go. All right, John.
Yeah, I would totally donate one. I actually thought about having one of my old coats and putting like the USARK logo on the back.
Oh, that would
with
be
the
cool.
tassel, and
Yes.
then donating it. So
Yeah,
we'll see if I can get that done before. That's what I was bringing up to Shannon the other night. Hopefully, I can get that done before April.
He did
That'd be
give
awesome.
away to someone
I would
on
bid
it.
on that.
That would be fun.
At Pomona, a lady came up and she was telling me how much she loves my coat and how she shows dogs. And I was like, here, take it. And so she was going to go get it like hemmed up to fit her or whatever. And I only wore it that one time. And I thought it was really funny that she absolutely loved it. And hopefully someday I see her on TV, like a Westminster show or some shit.
That'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
So
Yeah,
how
dude.
am I revolutionary? The only thing I can really think of is my stubbornness, if you want to call it that. I mean, exanthichism was not super popular. It was maybe in its infancy with albino and all the other recessives, and I stuck it out and still am sticking it out, and it came back around, I think,
Yeah.
through that stubbornness and having a vision and thinking about what you can make. And I'll even tell you, like, one of the things that inspired me was Nerd when he first made pastel xanthics. Like, that was my inspiration. And so I think sticking with the projects that you find and with your passions and the genes you like, I think that's revolutionary these days when you've got a sea of hundreds and hundreds of different combos and you can change your mind on a dime. I think sticking with them is really being revolutionary these days.
Yeah, for sure. I totally
John,
agree with that.
I've said it a million times, John. The different people that come up to us and ask about Axanthic, they ask us what line you want to go in, and I tell them all the time that you're the reason that the Axanthic project is even still around.
Yeah.
Because you've made all those combinations that we all want to cheat and go look at to see if it's worth making.
Right.
You've done the legwork, so then people can go and say, "Oh my God, I just saw this awesome snake and it's an Axanthic." And I'm like, well, JD probably produced it. No, oh yeah, it's JD's, and then just from talking with you, it's okay. Now you go find the perfect Axanthic example that you like, and then shoot to make that animal. But you've done the legwork, so I mean, everybody else is just riding your coattails.
Yeah, and I would say more now, people are getting inspired by it, right?
Yes.
I can't do everything, but there's, people doing projects now, and that excites me when they're like, hey, I'm doing this blackhead, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that sounds really cool. I'm super excited. Like, I want to find out more about what you do with that combo because I've wondered about that, but I don't have the room or time to do it. So I really think that that's exciting too.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Yeah, dude.
Well, that was all we had for you guys tonight. You guys hang in for 3 whole hours. So we really, really appreciate all of your time and information.
Yeah, Liz, can I one more time just express I would love for anybody to reach out to Busy Balls. Again, Busy Balls is on Instagram. It's busy, BIZZY _ balls, BALLS. Even if you can't donate to his GoFundMe, to help with his funeral costs of losing his daughter, he would absolutely love a message. And so if you can just send him some well wishes of some kind, that's great too. And I know tonight we brought up the GoFundMe. I know that Chino from DMJ, geez, I can't talk to DMJ. He's got a YouTube channel. I know tomorrow night on his. He's going to be raising some money, I think, with maybe some auction type deals like he did for USARK. If you're friends with Nivial, I know they've got it posted in their bio on Instagram. So you can probably find this information just anywhere. Busy Balls, his name's Dennis. He's on Busy Balls on Facebook too. Again, heartbreaking to lose a child that's 7 months old, and you watched a girl fight for her life, and to lose that battle is not easy. And so $5, $500, $50, I don't give a shit. Just if you can give something, give it, and you'll have my heart. I appreciate it. I talked to my mom and dad about the situation. I don't know Dennis that well, like I know everybody here, but it's heartbreaking. And to talk to my mom and dad about it, who lost a child at 7 months, like you just, nobody should go through it. So do what you can. I certainly appreciate it. So yeah, that would be my ending.
Agreed.
Definitely.
So is this triple threat, like, did we decide if we're going to do the swag pack competition or nah?
Swag pack?
For us, yeah, we can.
Liz, so we're thinking about, after people watch this, putting up a poll, and they're all going to vote for who's the best of the 3 of you guys, and the winner gets a Reptile Revolution swag pack. T-shirt, sticker, magnets, the normal shit. Oh, sweet. Fuck yeah, dude.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
The best in
Yeah,
what
so we're probably
aspect?
gonna go do that. Are you guys?
Lisa's like, I got this. No.
Let's go with beard.
It would be whatever. Beards.
Just
Oh,
vote
damn,
for
yeah,
your
you got me
favorite.
there, man.
Let's say
Oh,
that. Over, who your favorite was on tonight. Although you guys all did awesome. We really, really appreciate it. All your time.
Oh yeah, dude, that was a lot of fun.
And I know, like I said already, we kept you guys super late. So with that, unless you guys have anything more you would like to add, we are more than happy to let you guys go to bed. I know most of you have early mornings.
Yep.
So, all right.
Well, thank you for having us. Appreciate it, you
thank
guys.
you,
Thank you so much.
Absolutely,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Everyone have a good
Thanks
night.
for being on.
Anytime.
Thanks, guys.
Anytime.
See ya.
Take care.
See you
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
Later, guys.
All right. There we go. Oh, we got a
that
JD
was
vote, a Troll vote. I will put it up on the story tomorrow, guys. We'll go ahead and put it up.
Yeah.
And whoever gets it, we'll send out a swag pack. For
And then
Reptile Revolution.
yeah. And
should be awesome.
So next week, I'm really, really,
Yes.
really hyped about next week.
Yes. So next week we have Mike from Mike's Monitors. If you guys haven't checked him out on Instagram and Facebook, go check him out. He's going to be talking about all kinds of different monitors that he has. He's got a beautiful collection. We were just up there a couple months ago picking up Zoopoxy, which is another thing that we're going to talk about. He's a distributor. Kenny, we will have swag packs coming here soon. Brandon ordered some big ass motherfucking stickers.
I don't think they're that big, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they're that big.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
But yeah,
Appreciate
so
you, Matt.
we got Mike's Monitors. We were talking about monitors. Zoopoxy, he's been doing monitors for, I want to say 20, 25 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's got some beautiful, he works with a lot of different dwarf monitor species, which I didn't even know existed, to be completely honest, until we went up to his place. And they're literally pretty much just like big monitors, but they're tiny. Like,
yeah,
they're not like a lizard, right? There's definitely more intelligence there. He just had a clutch of Kumanai hatch out today that are absolutely beautiful. I think his big name to fame are his Mertens, though, which are some of the coolest monitors I think I've ever seen. They're not too big, to be completely honest. They're like 2 to 3 feet long. But they probably have a good 4 to 5 foot tail. Really thin, super, super aquatic. Even more so than your most of your monitors. Their swimming ability is insane. The rooms that this guy has for his monitors are just some of the best I've ever seen. To go to a breeder and see these animals in zoo-like enclosures, right, instead of kind of smaller, it's very awesome. So that's what we have for next week. With that, guys, it's 11 o'clock. We're probably going to hop off here. We appreciate every single one of you for coming on tonight. I think at one point we had about almost 30 people watching, so pretty awesome. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're making moves. We're making
our moves. I know that there was
we're almost at 100 subs.
Yeah, I know that there was some other big shows on tonight too. Like I think Triple B had some stuff on, and so I know we were competing.
I know Billy was live.
Yes. So anyway, like we said, guys, we appreciate everything. And with that, next week.
Bye, guys.